Hello, everybody. I often wonder if I can play that tune on a kazoo, if I had a kazoo to hand. Of course, get a kazoo for next time, Hadley. Welcome back to the Spacebook, talking all out there entertainment, live streaming to you on YouTube and Facebook, 100% in real time. It's Saturday, the 4th of February, 2023. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and you are here again on the best channel that you'd never heard of, for a couple of hours of talk of movies, TV, comic books, games, physical media, whatever else. Let's get started. Where am I? There I am. Oh, there I am. Hello, everyone. Yeah, lots to get into this time. Very, very exciting week in geekdom, and films, TV shows, and all sorts of other stuff to get stuck into. And I've got a panel of some hardcore geeks to help me detonate it all too. So first of all, I'm welcoming back my self-identifying naughty boy of a mate, all the way from... I think does he like that? I don't know. He's slightly smiling. I think he likes it. He likes it, everybody. Matt Pot likes it.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Hello, mate. Good to have you back. Good morning. Good morning.
To be back. Yes, it's a beautiful morning out here. So,
yeah. Have you taken Charlie for a walk yet?
No. He is busy farting though, so I will have to take him out soon. So that's my warning sign.
Best way to start the day, isn't it? Best way to start the day. I like to start the day too with a quick scan of YouTube, and there's something fantastic that dropped just last night. I wonder if the Mega Geek can tell us a little bit about that. Anything good drop on YouTube yesterday, mate?
Yeah, my prologue, Rebecca Gold prologue. That's what dropped yesterday. So everybody go and watch it.
It's back. It's up. 6 minutes worth of hardcore joy.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of people watched it. I'm really grateful that they did. So I thought only 100 people were going to watch it, but I think it's up to 3,000 people that watched it now, which is quite good, really, for something that I didn't really advertise that much. So that's quite nice that people remember it.
Really well. I hope we're going to get lots more views clocked this evening. Not whilst we're on, of course. Go and watch it later. But yeah, we'll be reminding you a little later on where you can find Rebecca Gold, this prologue, and everything that Ian wants you to do as well going forward with that. But it's good to have you back as well, mate. So, Matt, you weren't on last week, were you? Because we talked about the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, which really sort of twisted, I think, all of our minds. So we needed a good few days away.
Yes, and Jamie Lee Curtis has just been nominated for an Academy Award. So
for what?
For the movie. For that movie. Everything Everywhere All at Once.
What? Why? Why was
I don't know. Clearly Ian doesn't. Maybe Andy from Atomic Blonde LDN. Maybe she knows.
Best supporting actress, apparently. I don't nominate these people. Maybe they just felt she deserved.
Well, she's not going to get it for Halloween, is she, Ian?
She's never had a nomination, so.
That's a shame.
Especially that last one. Oh my God.
I know, but it wasn't like her performance was excellent or brilliant or anything like that. It was just standard. Why is she nominated? Usually people get nominated for Oscars. They get nominated for an outstanding performance. The
something
performance wasn't
outstanding.
outstanding.
Ian,
Yeah.
it was a quiet year. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Okay.
Yeah,
But I love
definitely.
that movie, by the way. I'm
know
going to
you did.
defend it to the end of the world. But I mean, yes, I the funny thing is, like, I did actually watch last week's show, and I agree with all of you. So, but I still enjoyed it because it was something different than what I've been given
You
the last
enjoyed it.
several.
So did Chris from Cultivated Media. In fact, I think he loved it more than any of us. And even though a couple of us went in on the film last week, but he is back. So welcome back to Chris. Hello, mate.
Hey,
Hello. How is everyone?
hey, Chris.
Good, thank
Hey,
you.
Chris.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hi.
you sound very laid back and chilled out, mate.
It's been cold here lately, man. It's been like minus 40 Celsius. I'm
Wow.
like frozen, and I can't. My lips are frozen, and yeah.
Uh-oh.
What are your
what's
thoughts on
new?
Jamie Lee Curtis getting this nod then, this nomination for her role in Everything Everywhere? Does that surprise you?
Well, I do agree with the comment that it was a slow year. 2022, as I said, was the first year in memory that I didn't go see anything in the theater. Although this year I did see Megan. This was one of the only movies that came out last year that I actually liked, so I'll give it that. Yeah, that's a fun scene. She reminds me of a boss I used to have, so maybe I was triggered in that movie. Jamie Lee Curtis's her personal politics are horrendous, but we're not going to go into that.
No, I agree with that.
No.
She recently got
apparently-
cancelled, so it was quite interesting to see her being on the other side of the fence
over
for
a
once.
picture or something. But apparently she did put in a good performance. Somebody I know who also puts in a good performance every single day of the week, and sometimes twice on Sundays, I believe. It's the rabbi from another planet, Sfila Becky.
Well, I do my best. Sir. Let me tell you, I break into a sweat every now and again. And for us Hebrews, our Sabbath is Saturdays, right? So it's twice any day. It'll be Saturday. But yeah, I'm an old man now. Don't expect great things. Is all I'm going to say. Hello, how are you? I missed speaking about what's happening with Jamie Lee Curtis.
She got
She's
nominated.
nominated.
For
what?
everything, everywhere, and all that rubbish. That one.
Have you seen that movie? Everything Everywhere All at Once?
You got to stop thinking everything's
What
woke,
the hell
Ian.
is that?
Well, I thought you'd have been a dead cert to have
Have you
watched
seen
that
it?
movie.
I'm telling you that there's nothing that makes me want to see a movie less than seeing that. That looks like, why would I want to see that?
It gets
Oh my
bleak,
God.
doesn't it?
It's like,
It gets way worse from that moment on.
yeah, no, I don't want to see that movie. I don't want to see that movie. Here we go.
It brings a tear to your eye.
It's good.
Hey,
as-
if you're talking about when she went topless in Trading Places, because her boobs were nearly perfect. She can get an award for that, okay? And she can say any weird stuff and have any weird pedophile thing hanging up in her background. That shot was very good.
Well,
That's
I tell you
basically
what
where
else
I
is.
am on Team Lee Curtis.
I tell you what else is very
Using
good.
Buck Rogers.
We have people watching and listening along to all of this nonsense. Maybe they'll know. There's people watching on YouTube and Facebook, as always. Let's go and see who's rolled up to hear our nonsense this time. Mark Milford's here, and he says, Saturday night, geeking out or go. Yeah, you geek out with us any time, Mark. Good to see you, mate. Darren M's here with a hail and howdy one and all. Some of these are proper tongue twisters, aren't they? Mark the Vicar's in the house as well. Spacebook broke back edition. He's going to break his back doing that.
I'm not watching that film. No.
Bruises plums, I suspect. Retro Doc Gary Akers is here too. Some of the gun plan is interesting. Well, we'll get onto that later on. Don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun. Well, yeah, somebody? What's this? What? No, I don't know what's going on there. Cam is here. Yes, they are. Darren. Cam's Crash Course is here too, and we've got Darren is a fan of the Rebecca Gold prologue. It seems. There, Ian, you'll be pleased to know.
Cheers. Thank you.
Who this is here as well? Says howdy, mates.
I may know who that is.
No.
I have no idea. Do you think it's Is it somebody under an assumed name, Chris?
Well, it's not me.
That's
not
not
me.
you. It's a sock puppet account that you've got, is it, mate?
I am sworn to secrecy.
Uh,
But hello,
Huh.
who dis?
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get to the bottom of that later on. We've got a hail all from the Mr. Brown Alliance. Good evening, Mr. Brown, and a hi Dan and panel from Lord Thoth. Great. This is very, very intriguing. How long have we got to guess? Maybe who this will drop us a clue or two in the live chat. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? So please like the video now if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Check you're still subscribed if you think you are. And hit the cloister bell too to get all the notifications about what we're doing next and when we're doing it. It's been a busy, busy week for us here on the channel. There was lots to talk about on the old Doctor Who show the other night, and I've been watching a lot too. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this, and I know the Rabbi did too. So a couple of weeks ago, we were here for the launch week of The Last of Us on HBO Max. Our special guest that week was John Mosby, and he'd seen every episode of the season. He'd been sent preview copies of it, and he told us all, if you remember, Andy, he told us all that week three was the one we'd got to stay clenched in anticipation.
In more ways than one, yeah.
Oh, Hadley, whatever you said, that you should. Oh God.
Move on. I think we got away with it. Keep going.
I'll pull it back. Yes, this was the one to watch. Episode 3 was going to be the one to watch. So yeah, the first 2 episodes of the show, I felt week 2 really delivered. I probably enjoyed week 2 even more than week 1. And all the acting, all the characters really fleshed out beautifully. And I found it, even though this is not a nice alternative reality to spend time in, Rabbi, it felt like pure escapism for me, this show, as somebody who's never played the game. So it was, more of the same, and I was loving it. We got an extra long episode this week. I think it was well over an hour for episode 3, which was called
Long minutes.
Was it that long? Yeah.
Hour and 15 minutes.
It did fly by eventually.
It did. I think they did an excellent job with it. But sorry, go ahead.
It's called Long Time, and it's the premise. Well, we got a little bit of time with the 2 regulars, didn't we? With Joel and Ellie there, and we see more. We see more sites.
Whole introduction period. That whole introduction, I thought really worked well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of overlooked because of the main story. But the whole introduction, because I've rewatched this episode. There's a lot. I still think she's miscast. Whatever her name. And she's the worst bit of the show for me. But other than that, they should have had the little black girl from the beginning.
She was great.
She was so much better. She was so much better. She would have been made so much better. Like, for once, yes, you can get your diversity in. And no, you're only in it for 10 minutes. Like, really? She was so much better. It's crazy. But what can you do? It's a
quality. It's definitely a quality show, without a shadow of a doubt. And the premise for this one was when a stranger approaches the camp, survivor Bill forges an unexpected alliance that changes both of their lives. Later, Joel and Ellie seek Bill's advice as they try to find Tommy. But the 2 regulars are out of the way for most of the plot, aren't they? And we spend the bulk of it, of certainly an hour's worth of screen time, it felt like, with these 2 characters, Bill and Frank. And Bill is a standard sort of, I suppose you'd say he's a proper sort of tinfoil hat kind of guy, isn't he, Andy? He's a bit of a cliche, this guy.
He's a doomsday.
He's very, very capable.
Yeah, he's a doomsday prepper, survivalist, whatever you want to call it. Plus, he hates
that's the word.
Survivalist. Yeah, he hates people. And he's kind of almost like living the dream because it's the apocalypse, right? So he's got his own little bubble. He's not got to interact with people, and he's ready. He's prepared just to live out his days, quite happy with all these booby traps, and his life is set. He's ready to sort of see out the apocalypse. So yeah, he was all geared up for this, and he's thrilled that the apocalypse has happened.
I love that he's eating steak.
Yeah,
he's living very well, isn't he? Like he's got his grand. That's a grand piano, isn't it? So he's got his piano. He eats. He's clearly a very accomplished chef, and I love the fact that he hides away. He's got that sideboard that he hides under when they're coming to evacuate everybody. It looks like it was something you find in Wayne Manor or something like that. And he comes out with ammunition sort of wrapped around him. It was fun. It was fun, and. but with it, and so I felt that I was still in. I found it charming. I found it amusing and as well made as ever. But as the plot moves on, we spend an increasing amount of time with these two guys, and yeah, within 10 minutes of this starting, I've gone from watching a show which I found a huge amount of escapism in over the last couple of weeks, really away from the culture war and messaging and identity politics, and say within 10 minutes I'm watching two guys kissing again, and this was well acted without a shadow of a doubt. And
I don't understand why everybody automatically goes to it's a message. I mean, we've kind of had loads of conversations about different shows that this is just normal now, right? Having gay people in shows.
I know this is weird, but why can't we have two women kissing? I mean, you know.
I think we're not later on.
There's plenty of that too.
There is lesbians everywhere. None of it
just totally turns me off as soon as there are two blokes. You know,
I'm the same. No, to be fair, I'm the same. I'm the same when it's two women. At the moment, I feel that gay or lesbian relationships are absolutely everywhere in all the entertainment that I watch. And quite honestly, now, for example, 10 years ago, I watched Torchwood Miracle Day. And there was an episode of that focused entirely, you know, it's a terrible season. Yeah, of course it was. But there was an episode of that right in the dead center about Captain Jack Harkness falling in love with this man. And I just thought it was a beautiful piece of television. I found it very affecting and quite stark in the middle of that. But of course, that was a different time. It's before the culture war. And I think it's no reflection on this as a piece of entertainment, particularly. That as soon as it became obvious, they got these lingering looks between these two guys. I actually groaned and thought, oh, here we go.
Now, I have to tell you that I completely disagree with you on this one, right? I really like this. For me, was representation done right because I thought I loved the character that they built up with Bill. Right, I was really. Well,
I haven't finished telling my tale yet, so don't write me off just yet. But go on, carry on.
Sorry.
No, carry on.
No. I cut you off. You carry on.
No. I mean, that's not where my story ends with this. As I say, my initial reaction was, oh, here we go again. More messaging, more identity politics, more minority interests. I see this everywhere. Do I really have to have it in another show that's 2 weeks old? Can't I have more escapism? I enjoyed it. I really did. I felt like I was being taken away with the first two episodes. And yeah, so seeing this, I wouldn't say it turned me off, but I just thought, really, again? And I'm the same at the moment about lesbian relationships too. I think it's saturation point. Mm-hmm. Go on, carry on, Svi. What were you going to say?
I was going to say this to me was the absolute opposite of woke because we had characters in a story, right? And they were characters first, and it was a really good story. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? I was really sold by the story. I was sold. I mean, Nick Offerman's performance was freaking incredible, just off the charts good. I found it very touching. I found their relationship very genuine. Mm-hmm. I wasn't. Look, I'm not like a fan of guys kissing. What do you want me to tell you? But and I think they did linger a bit too much on the fleshy reality of being gay. You could have just had a bit of muslin or something over things. But no, okay. But other than that, it was. I found their relationship really, really genuine. Right? I mean, really. I believed them. Right, and I liked how they connected with each other. I mean, I like the interesting thing about Nick Offerman's character is, he's this weird survivalist loner, but he's also knows about wine. He knows about food. He knows about even the way he poured the wine is somebody who's clearly an expert in wine.
It speaks of the prejudices that we all have about people, doesn't it?
Sorry.
Yeah,
it speaks of the prejudices that we can all have about people that we meet, thinking just because they are one way, it means that they can't possibly be well-read or whatever else, or musical or anything like that.
Right. All right, and listen, I'm also torn because Tim Pool has a take on this. I very much respect Tim Pool's opinions on things. So his take is that he was very turned off for the same reasons that you were, but also, ultimately it was a pro euthanasia, which I'm normally very, very against. But in the context of this story and it being a zombie apocalypse, it works, right? But is this a first thing to normalize euthanasia in society? Could be. I mean, you can't tell me anything's crazy nowadays.
We're trying to do it down here.
They're doing it here.
I've
are
heard
doing
of
it there.
Canada.
They call it assisted dying.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very uncomfortable about that. But again, in the context of zombie apocalypse, this kind of works.
It does, because there's a point where you don't want to be a burden, or like I say, there isn't a doctor he can get to. There's no MRI machines, and if they're under attack, he sees himself. He could get Bill killed trying to protect him, because earlier on when he was able-bodied, he got shot trying to protect Frank. Right, so the logic makes sense. That he's like, I'm only going to get worse. And this is a tough world to be in if you're not able-bodied. So I think it absolutely makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't like to think anybody would take from that I'm ill, so let's just check out. I hope nobody. But the point is, like, he isn't going to be able to get treatment. There isn't a doctor he can go to. It's not the world we're in now, because hopefully, he would have kept going or saw a doctor.
I like Andy how they don't linger on what's actually wrong with him either, because it's not really important, is it?
No, absolutely. Right. I mean, you kind of assume maybe it's like MS or something, but like I said, they don't go into loads of details. He's just taking medication. He's gone from being, but also like he was like the very fit one, doing the jogging, trying to get Bill fit, and the next thing you see is him in a wheelchair. Yeah, and you're like, oh god, what's happened there?
And again,
for Bill though, Rabbi, when Frank passes away, he knows, because of the situation that they're in this reality, this post-apocalyptic world, however you want to describe it, that he probably won't ever meet anybody ever again. So if there's that corner, it's also, all grey areas for drama.
It's not like he had a very spiritual worldview to start with, right? He obviously was somebody who was very atheistic and felt this world is all there is, right? Which again, it's very hard to argue against that in the face of a zombie apocalypse, right? Like, and I'm a God, theory, Bible thumping man. I see the reality of it, right? If there's a zombie apocalypse, and what he says is, look, it's my choice. This was my choice. It was, what's the point of staying alive? And he's right? And there's a great moment in it where we got some great character development, which wasn't like shoved in your face, which is, you always get in these sort of things, which is why I like this. When he's dying, or he thinks he's dying, Nick Offerman, he says to call Joel, right? That shows you the respect he has for Joel, which is a very important plot point.
I don't like you, but I respect you. He says that, doesn't he, in the note? I don't like you, but I do respect you.
He's going to look after you. That's a real mark of respect, right? And that lifts Joel up as a character. It's very good writing, right? And you very rarely get writing that.
I think for me, what powered me through this, because I was kind of on the brink. I didn't want to stop watching this show, but I didn't want to be told that story and served that message yet again. So I nearly turned this off. Not because it's two guys in a relationship, but because I felt I had my suspicions about where the script would go, where the story would go, and what it would be about, because it was about a gay couple. And of course, I was completely wrong, and I'm so glad that I carried on watching it, because not only did that hour rip along. Say it again.
Where did you think it would go?
I thought it would be aggressively woke. So all the standard talking points hit all the beats that we usually see hit. I thought they would meet somebody. Yeah, I thought we would meet somebody who was maybe representative of the homophobic position. I thought we'd have all those ducks lined up and knocked down one by one. And as it went on, as the drama continued, it deviated completely from what I would have expected, and of course it's on me for my prejudices, I'd reached that conclusion based on some of the crap drama that we've been served over the last 5 or 6 years. In my defense, I'm so glad I stuck with it because it was very life affecting. I don't think I've ever seen these two actors in anything else. I probably have. I don't know, but it's nothing that I've ever. So I don't think so. So for me, these two guys were Bill
I recognize the dude with
is
beard.
very iconic.
Yeah.
Parks and
Very
Recreation,
iconic.
isn't it?
Christian, yeah.
See, I
I
didn't
think
watch that.
Parks and
So
Recreation,
to me, they're Bill and Frank, and so I was able to completely immerse myself in them, their world, their what was important to them, and their relationship. And it was a really moving story to be told in this. It does remind me of the kind of things that we used to do on British television when we used to tell survivalist kind of stories, I suppose, or stories about people living in a very sort of isolated, or maybe living the remnants of a simpler life from decades gone by. People who are maybe hanging on to a previous version of the world and living in an enclave, a little bubble somewhere. That's what it reminded me of, that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm still 2 episodes behind in this myself. I've been on the fence as to whether or not I want to continue watching it. I may watch episodes 2 and 3 tonight. But yeah, it's been about 6 years since I played the game. But for what I remember, I think this was actually a storyline in the game itself. I think, my mystery friend reminded us of that as well. But no, I
wiped
think
it from my memory.
Yeah.
I wiped it completely from my memory.
Well, the first
I don't
game
want to watch
is good,
I don't
but,
want to play the game. I don't want to do anything to do with it.
You've completely detached emotionally from the game.
Well, I can see your perspective, Dan. I'll have to watch it myself to see if I find it ham-fisted or not. But I can understand your perspective as well, because there was the episode in Miracle Day. But let's not forget there was an even more powerful scene in Children of Earth when Yanto passes away. And here we're looking at 2009 and 2011. Culturally, these are like the Stone Ages compared to where we are now. So there was a time when we went. Say if this had come out in 2012, it would have been okay. Yeah, whatever. But I can see, and as soon as you brought that up, or as soon as you said, you talked about the makeout scene, I'm like, oh Christ, okay, I'm not going to watch it. And I'm like, for me, and it's not so much what it's about; it's what it kind of represents in current year, where it's going to turn into a lecture session. Yeah, and we've all seen too many of those recently. So over the past few years, although I am curious, I'm just wondering that Dan, that picture you're showing, does that take place in 2003, or do they have a really nice house in the apocalypse?
This takes place in 2003.
Okay, yeah, I'm like, oh, that's not representative of the game. But yeah, no, I the guy at the piano, I know I've seen him in something. I just have I'll IMDb it later. I am curious
what he's famous for.
He's famous
Parks
for what?
And Recreation.
Oh, of course.
Parks and Rec. He's Ron Swanson.
He's known for a comedy actor more than drama. So
it's not that I've seen him in something else, but I've never actually watched Parks and Rec, believe it or not.
No, neither have I.
Yeah.
Oh, he was that one. He played that. He was in with that movie with Will Ferrell.
Oh,
the political one.
Oh no!
Nope.
Oh, the stepbrother one.
No, it was political. They were political rivals.
It's called The Campaign.
Yes.
Maybe I've seen that.
Pretty sure that's where it was.
Something else, but I'll figure it out later. But I am curious enough that I will watch the next 2 episodes. Yeah.
Is that Zach Galifianakis?
No.
I'm wondering, based on what John told us a couple of weeks ago about where the series is going to go from here, is it going to be is it going to have episodes which are going to be part of the main plot that are involved getting Ellie to wherever she's got to go, intersped with stories like this that are quite isolated? So an part anthology show and part serial. So I'm wondering that now, and whether these themes are going to continue, because I suppose ultimately this was about building a life of meaning, wasn't it? Whatever the circumstances, about finding happiness and beautiful moments, I suppose, at a time where things are pretty bleak, coping and finding your space, your world, and keeping it nice and building something worth getting up for.
I think for me, especially with Bill, and what I feel he learned is that obviously he was a survivalist. It was all about surviving, and he realized life is more than just surviving. You've got to live life as well, because what's the point of just surviving if you're not feeling anything, or you're not, you've got no one to share it with. And that's why he makes the decision he makes at the end, rather than just going back to surviving again. He doesn't want to go back to that. He's like lived the life and lived the life he never thought he'd have, which I thought was lovely. A really, really nice arc for someone like that. And, and it's like the last vestige of the old world, and being able to trust, because obviously they trusted Joel and Tess, as we find out, and all those sort of things that you just completely lose in the apocalypse. And like with these guys and how it ended, it's like that's it, the old world's gone now, and it was almost like there's some real closure to the old world, is kind of how I took it, which I thought was done really, really well.
I think lesser shows and lesser writers, and I don't know these writers from other things, lesser writers would have lent into the more graphic elements to it as well and shown us absolutely everything, but they don't. They hold back so much little details, as I say, that ultimately that don't matter, because it's about the dynamic and an understanding and an unwritten agreement between two people long before they've exchanged rings and vows and things like that, isn't it? It's about more than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's done
through to that final moment.
They just, like the way we talk about it, they just are gay, right? There's never any comments about what happened before the apocalypse. There's never any mention of sort of homophobia or gay bashing. So this is what I was a little bit like, oh, we're going to get into, well, we could have never been together if this hadn't happened. There wasn't a single mention of any of that. There's just these two people that found themselves in this world, who found something special and lived together, and ultimately they decided to go out together. And there was no references at all to the fact that they're gay, other than the fact that they are together. And that's just so, like I said,
they're awfully very gay.
yeah. But it's just refreshing, isn't it? That's how things used to be. Well, that's how things used to be written. Like I say, talking about like Doctor Who. Yeah, it's really refreshing.
I completely. Look, I think this is the sort of thing we can expect to get here on in. This is I think a post-culture war story, right? I think what I think what's happening is this: they're going back to what they originally wanted. What they originally said is, can we just have a few more gay storylines and black people on TV? And nobody cared. And it was like, yeah, why would anybody mind that? And then it turned out, oh yeah, and they all got to hate men, white men, and everything's got to be shit, right? Yeah. If they didn't add in those other things, we would have been fine. So I think they're just going back to saying, oh, it's also got to be good quality drama. And this was, based on its own merits, this was, I would say, high quality drama.
I completely agree. Should we see what people have got to say in the live chat here? We've got lots of people watching on YouTube and Facebook, adding their bit. And we've got not Brian. Not Brian says evening all.
Right,
we've got what else? Hail Brune, whatever that means. I was, but Brian does add, I was worried the terrible false beards would fall off during the kiss. I must admit, I did wonder about the beard, whether it was real or not.
Or the beard transfer onto the other person's face.
Because it's very thick and luxurious, isn't it? The one guy's beard, the
Bill's beard is very,
the Bill's beard, it was a bit suspiciously thick, whereas the Frank's was I thought perfect. Did it go woke? Asks the Mr. Brown Alliance. No, it didn't. It won me back. I'd say it won me back within 10 minutes of the main thrust of the plot connecting like that. Bill and Frank's HBO story was fine in itself. Well, Hoodis says, Rabbi, that it completely changed characters from the game. Why not create two new characters and tell this love story through them and keep Bill and Frank true to the game? See, I've not played the game, so I don't know.
I honestly, I don't think the game should be revered as, unchangeable source material. I mean, I like the game a lot, right? I thought the game was excellent. I played the game. I liked it, but it's like, you've got to make something for the medium you're making it in, right?
I think that's the difference. Who this adds here that Billy's gay in the game and he was a loved character. The show changes these characters and personality to shoe in a more elaborate gay story. But all of the stories in this are more elaborate because it's taking it to a medium which demands that. I think that's right.
Again, this really was a great story. With it, if I wasn't so taken with the story, it was really I mean, I like the way that Frank pulled Bill into the world, into like interacting with people. I like the thing where he wanted to get paint to clean up, to make things pretty, make things nice. I see how that adds something to Bill's world, right?
And Rabbi, he didn't change him as a person either. The character of Bill is still the same man. At the end of it, he's enhanced his life. He's expanded. He's opened up his horizons, expanded his worldview of a world that has drastically shrunk. There is so much in this episode, drama-wise, so much in its gift. I'll probably be thinking about it certainly until the next episode of The Last of Us in a few days' time.
I'm actually intrigued now that I haven't seen it. Well, now that I will be seeing it, but I think with The Last of Us, I still boycott the second game, but I think with the first game, it's one of the only games where I've seen that the story within the game is better than most movies I've seen. So what I'm wondering, and I may go back and, because like I said, it's been 6 years since I played the game. I might go back and rewatch some of these scenes from the game. I might even just watch all the cutaways in the game before I continue this, if I could find the time to do it, which would be an interesting point of comparison. But I think The Last of Us, specifically the first game, not the second, is different from most video game adaptations because a lot of movies, they're based on thin plots. Some of them will go on and do something different, like Resident Evil, and I still love those movies. I won't watch the TV series, and I don't care what anybody says. Guilty pleasure. But I think this one was kind of unique because the game story already was so strong and so well developed. But then, again, on the other side, if they just repeat the game verbatim, then it becomes like the Disney remakes, which are verbatim live action remakes of cartoons. So what I'm interested in seeing is, does this find a balance between the two of them, or is what my mystery friend said correct? Have they largely changed the characters completely from the game? And again, I'd have to rewatch those cutaway scenes, which they're all over YouTube, so I may just check them out beforehand. But I think the main point I'm getting here is I think The Last of Us is unique. It's not like other video game franchises or video game adaptations because the source material is already very strong.
Darren M, he doesn't sound like he's too convinced. I think I'll just stick to Zombieland. It's a fun movie. If you want a fun time, yes, stick to Zombieland. This was a deep, very moving drama, without shadow of a doubt. Hopefully, there'll be more escapism in The Last of Us. I'd like to think that it can change it up between pure escapism and good quality drama like this. If the rest of it is to this standard, I'll certainly be there for the full 9 episodes. Apparently, they have been had season 2 greenlit too, so it's all looking good so far. So I don't really know who the writers are, but we'll see where we're going there. We've got who this.
I wanted to ask Cultivated and the panel and Cultivated Media in particular because you know the game. I played the game again. I remember it vaguely. Do you think this season will cover the game, the first game, or do you think this season will just cover?
Oh, the ending will definitely be of a similar thing. It'll finish with the Fireflies.
I can see me getting to that point where they're in like the snowy forest in the woods. I can see that being in the second season.
Well, with the giraffes.
John, if you remember what John told us a couple of weeks ago, he was of the belief that quite a lot, as it progresses onwards, they start to introduce more elements So obviously I haven't played the game. I don't know how much plot there is in these games because it's an area that I don't really follow. But like I say, they've got a second season certainly lined up.
It
I tell you what,
depends on
Dan,
how long they want the show
if
to
you
go
want to
on.
play a game, I'm sorry.
This would be the one, would it?
No. You know what? A game that you could really get into, which has a fantastic plot. The only game I can think of which has as good a plot as this is Alien Isolation, right? And it goes from the other way around. That is a really great story. I love that game. And also, you're an Alien fan, so it's you spend most of the game terrified, hiding in a locker, right? You're like,
or under a table.
Who this?
Sorry, I like
kind of
shoot
here
things
too, because my mystery friend just said yes. So what I think I've heard as well. Part 1 is supposed to be, or the first 2 seasons are going to be the first game split in half. But then that leaves the question as to what are you going to do with the 3rd season? Are you going to pick that up with The Last of Us 2? Because there's a lot of, shall we say, dishappiness or unhappiness with that game. I think the only way around that would be to do a Game of Thrones thing and then just go off in a completely different direction. But yeah.
It depends on how long they want to run this show for. I mean, the fact is, if reception to this season continues being as strong as it is, they're not going to want to finish this into series, adapting 2 games over 2 series. They could get 5 or 6 years out of this just with this premise alone. I can see the potential for more drama.
There's no way a current day and age HBO run by David Zaslav, is going to put up with any woke crap. There's nothing. So the second game is woke crap, from what I understand. I'm no interest. I was going to buy it, then I heard it was going to be awful. I'm like, thank God, dodged the bullet.
I bought it. It's still in the plastic wrap.
Yeah.
I actually took it straight in to get it to get a refund, and they told me I couldn't have it because a lot of people had taken it back.
We have more info here from Who This. I'm trying to work this out. Who this could be? People I know who are gamers. Now I know that Noel Glynn from the TARDIS Zone is a gamer, so it could be him. Which is according to sources, part 1 of the game will be split into season 2. So that's according to Who This in the chat. But I know one thing for certain: the success of this show, after everything else that they've had this month, HBO Max must be thanking the Lord for The Last of Us, because the better that gets, the more maybe people will stop looking in the direction of Velma. Let us know what you think. Are you still watching The Last of Us? Had you decided not to watch this and you've heard our reviews the last couple of episodes and think, I might give that a go after all? Let us know what you think in the live chat, whether you're going to go for The Last of Us or not. We've had 3 episodes, so there's 9, isn't there, Andy? There's 9 in season
9. There's episodes 1 and 2 were kind of put together for a pilot, so it's up to 9 episodes. Yeah.
So there's a fair amount else to get stuck into, and hopefully lots more quality drama to come too. And we've got garbage in the chat. Hello, chat and panel. We've got all right, me babbers from Bristolian Dave, and hey, it's the Rabbi. So it's a friend and a fan of a friend and a fan of yours here too. Then
Dave is guilty of having one of the worst lasagnas I've ever seen presented on YouTube, right? An absolutely shocking lasagna.
You've never seen my
what I'm talking about.
That's not a euphemism.
You want a good lasagna, you make the pasta fresh. For lasagna, it's easy. Just roll it out, okay? Don't buy any of this. None of this frozen lasagna garbage.
Good God!
This is why it's good to have the Rabbi on the show. You get some life hacks, everybody.
Yes, it's the truth.
Okay, big man's back in the house.
Hello, ladies.
The Welsh wonder. He's back in residence there in the TARDIS, even if it's in a different studio over at Bad Wolf Studios rather than at Roth Lock. Russell T Davies is putting Shooty Gatwa and Millie Gibson through their paces. They're running around various locations all over the country filming Doctor Who, and we see them now and again getting snapped here and there. Whilst he's out promoting his new drama, Nolly, that's just dropped on ITVX. But in the midst of all that, Russell T Davies, who I believe is Britain's best populist screenwriter, certainly at the moment, and I'm including Paul Abbott and Jimmy McGovern in that, he's upset a few people, hasn't he, Andy? Do you want to tell us about this?
He has, well, upset the right people, hopefully. But yeah, no, I mean, he just basically came out and said this week, you know, what we've been saying, YouTube has been saying for the last 5 years, that you know, modern writers don't have a passion for writing or for television or the things they're making. All they want to do is get a message out there, and therefore the quality of writing is just in the toilet, because it's all about the message and not about characters, not about stories. And he's like, I'm mentoring a lot of these people, and he's like, their scripts are rubbish. And we're like, really? We hadn't realised that.
Here you go, Andy. You can read it out. Give us your best Welsh accent if you can.
Oh, I wouldn't want to offend anybody. Like, no.
Cup of tea.
So Russell says, I do a lot of mentoring, and there are voices wanting to be heard of any gender or ethnicity who consider themselves invisible. They hate the media that ignores them, and they're trapped into wanting a job in that medium purely to increase representation.
Yeah.
I read their scripts, and they're rubbish. They don't actually love television, so they don't know how to write for it. And Russell gave this interview to the Sunday Times last weekend, Andy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just thought it's like, you know, someone is massively respected as him, and obviously he's a very well-known gay man, and you know he got into writing television because he loves television, and you know he can wax lyrical, you know, about all the shows that he loves, and a lot of them the shows that we love. And when you look back at his early career, the TV shows he wrote on, you know, it's like growing up, like my generation, he wrote on like Children's Ward and a lot of kids shows, and obviously through to adult programs. That someone of that stature is just has turned around and said, like, you know, park, you know, I think, you know, he got into it partly because he loves it, but as a gay man, he wanted to write stories about what he knew. So say write about what you knew, and obviously like when the Queer as Folk came out, I think, you know, there was a lot of pearl clutching, wasn't there? Women having heart attacks and things like that. But
it's 1998, around 99, that time.
Yeah, 99. Absolutely groundbreaking. I mean, they've only just remade it in America now, and that just shows how far behind America are to us. And people can argue whether it's a good or bad thing, but I just think, hey, about time somebody turned around and said, you need to write stories, you need to write passionately, and kind of, you can have a political message, but sort of always park your agenda at the door and write a bloody good story first. And I'm like, absolute, because I mean, everybody's like, you know, really worried, is Doctor Who going to be woke? Is he going to quadruple down? And all this kind of stuff. And, you know, that I think that's a bit of a reassuring message. And I think that's maybe why he's even said it, to say stories will always come first and characters will always come first. Oh, I hope that's why he said it. But I was just like, it was just a breath of fresh air that someone with his stature and that people respect has turned around and gone,
Andy, the media, particularly the fan media, such as we are, we land on obviously all the things that he has to say about Doctor Who, but also in the midst of the culture war where everything is so exaggerated, people tend to land on the more incendiary things that people say and on the bigger platforms that they say them on. He gave a hysterical speech last year at an awards ceremony, not about screenwriting or certainly not about Doctor Who or anything, but it turned him into a figure of fun. And quite rightly, what he said, in my view, was ridiculous. But aside from that, Russell gives quite a lot of interviews, considering that he's such a high profile and such a busy man. And he gives them to places where you wouldn't usually find them. And he gives them to places too that don't get picked up by the fan media and certainly not by the mainstream media. And if you actually watch these podcasts and videos or these articles that he gives interviews to, and I know the rabbi does all of them, so he's seen this, then you'll see that his statement this week is not the blip. That's not the exception to the rule. He's maintained an integrity every time he talks about screenwriting, completely separately from all his activism. I've got one of the rabbi's brilliant thumbnails. It's here lined up, ready to go. Here it is. So this is the late.
This story is a tale of two thumbnails. We had. Actually, I've done 3 videos about this now. So yeah, Rossi Davis drops major truth bombs about this new. Yeah, look at people freak. And how do they freak out? We went into more detail on this one. Try to explain.
Poor Jody.
No one watches anything just for representation. It's true, but again, it's I based my whole life on that. He did say he's very torn though, Rusty Davis, because he's from the 80s when and so he's very much, I think, relates to. No, I think I don't know how this. I'll explain it. I think he's been disingenuously convinced that the current struggle for equality and rights for a trans community is similar to the struggle for equality and rights to the gay community. He sees them as being similar, and I don't think they are similar. Right? I think, and it's but because he lived through that, right? He's very, very protective of that, and so that's why. Yeah, and one of the reasons Yasmin Finney will be in the new series, because he believes there should be trans representation. However, I think we're going to see things like Last of Us episode 3, where it will be like 3-dimensional stories. You can't coast on representation. Velma proves that. That's what I think. I think the age of woke is over. We're going to get representation, but I think the age of woke is over.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, which was happening organically anyway, as you were saying. Stories coming out, and the moment you got a gay person in EastEnders back in the 80s, that's when it was it's baby steps, but all these things get normalized.
Played by 2 straight people. So there you go. They were played by 2 straight. Well, one of them was gay. The other one was straight.
Yeah. Colin. I don't know his real name, but he was obviously gay.
I take it from Christian in EastEnders. When Christian was in EastEnders, I think that was 2008. Yes. Then being gay was totally normal. Right, Christian was like, okay, you're gay, who cares?
Exactly. And like I say, it was all happening organically. And I think, Russell, fought and, like you say, was on the cold face of changing that to make it normal. And like, this isn't the platform to get into trans issues. It's such a complicated thing. And I get, because again, like this week, he said he hopes that, trans writers can come through. And like, he sees it very much the same vein as himself. And again, I'm very much like, hey, if they write entertaining stories and they're watchable, I don't care what they identify as.
We've just talked about that episode of The Last of Us, purely coincidentally, and it brought to mind to me exactly as you described there, Rabbi, because it's not woke. It brought to mind to me an episode of a show called The Grand, which is it was a bit like Downton Abbey, upstairs, downstairs. It was a period drama that was on ITV in the mid-90s. And it had run for 2 or 3 years. It was a standard historical drama thing about people living and working in this hotel in the early part of the 20th century. So it was all costume drama, nice cars, all that. But the very last episode of the very last season was about, I think it was about a bellhop or a waiter or somebody who brings the bags up to the rooms or something like that. And this guy, he's living in, say, 1915, 1920. It turns out that he's secretly gay, and he has a gay experience, his first sexual experience in the hotel. And that drama and this relationship sort of begins and ends during the space of a guest's stay. And it was fantastic television. I'd never seen anything like it at the time. This was in the mid-90s. And this was after Colin and Barry and EastEnders and all those things 10 years earlier.
That's Rusty Davis, wasn't it?
And it really stuck in my mind. And I didn't find out until years later that episode, that Russell T Davies had been the script editor on The Grand, because in the last season, I think he'd come into it because they were looking to shut it down. And they pulled all the funding away from it, and they basically run out of scripts. And Russell wrote that because they'd got no final episode, but they needed some, and he just went for it and threw it in. I didn't find out he actually wrote it until I think it was maybe during or maybe even after his time doing Doctor Who.
Yeah, he's been involved in so much stuff. But like I say, I think he the fact that the people love him so much, and I think he knows, he writes things that are. So I don't know if you watch Years and Years. I mean, obviously that's a very political drama set in the near future, and he's got a very political stance in that. Great drama. Highly recommend it, but it's a very political drama. But I think, he knows when just to tell an entertaining story. Like I say, he started off on children's TV. He knows when to put the politics in, when to light touch it, when to rein it back, when to, to the sort of softly approach. So when Captain Jack came in, we all just sort of went, oh, I like Captain Jack, and isn't he funny? And look, he likes him as well.
Honestly, Andy, I think it's this simple. I think he loves television as a medium. Yeah. He understands television as a medium, which means that he understands not just how it functions, but how it's received as well. He never, ever forgets about the audience experience and who they are.
It's around the head with whatever message he's trying to tell, does he? Sorry, Chris.
No.
Oh, I was just going to say, as everybody know, I used to cover this show that I still refuse to mention by name.
Very wise.
But there's these statements, which may be positive, it doesn't resolve the issues that a lot of us have with this show. It's and some of the things he said, he may be trying to downplay it. But there's two reasons why many of us have walked away from the show, and I don't know if I ever see myself coming back. I will watch anything 1989 or 1996 and earlier. I've disowned everything that comes after that.
Absolutely.
The problems go beyond just the way he's going to write it, and even if he wants to undo that, a major problem that I think is really unforgivable with Doctor's name I won't mention. I almost slipped there. Was the reprehensible way the fans have been treated over the past 5 years. And you can say it was a different regime. It's still the same show. He picked up the torch from the other person who I don't even want to mention by name. But there were a lot of us that had been fans of this show for decades. We supported the show for decades. We gave them thousands of dollars over the decades towards this show. We were treated with complete and utter contempt. It was made blatantly that we were not allowed in fandom.
Not welcome.
Attacked personally by people that were involved with this show. It's disgusting. And if he wants to even have many of us consider coming back, it can't be just a vague statement. There has to be an apology issued to all fans.
To be fair, Russell wasn't there. It's not his place to do that.
Well, here's the way I'm looking at it, though, Dan. It's like he wasn't there, but he's inherited the show from the previous regime.
He represents it.
It's the way I look at it is he's responsible for the whole thing. So you are representing a show that I won't say bad words that crapped on people for 5 years. So it's your responsibility as the person currently in charge of this show to publicly apologize to everybody that was treated with utter contempt. And I never thought I'd say this, but I hate the new version of this show. Everything after 1996, it's unwatchable.
If we expand the point a little, Chris, I mean, do you forget about, if we forget or put aside the fact that this man, his history with our formerly favourite show, however you want to define it, here we have a figure, certainly in Britain, there's nobody working in British entertainment, British television, more powerful, who can get anything greenlit on the level that Russell T Davies is. This man is respected, he's powerful, he's creative, and he is benevolent, I believe, generally speaking. But he's also respected on an international scale as well. And here he is speaking publicly like this. And although it's only to the Sunday Times, it's not on stage at the Oscars, for the entire world to see. It's kind of what Svi was talking about earlier on with the end of the culture war. It seems like the adults are back in the room. We've got a big figure like this speaking this way just a couple of months after David Zaslav comes into DC and says, we're not putting that crap out, and gets rid of the Batgirl film and 101 other things. And we're seeing this. So if you... is it possible to look at it and say, okay, this is a major step, the fact that somebody who's respected and powerful has said something like this? And,
it is.
Whether they've come up with the crazies, because Bristolian Dave says, I'm waiting for all the crazies to come after Russell here. And they did, didn't they? But he just...
I mean, I see this as a complete dig and swipe at the previous regime.
It is. But here's just my point on it. And it is a positive step towards, maybe things will improve. And speaking on it, because I was plugged into this franchise on social media for, as long as the internet's been around. I'd say that's fine, but I know I speak for myself and a lot of other people. It doesn't matter what RTD does, he will never get us back without an apology. And whether or not he's not Chibs, even though I didn't want to mention his name, but he represents the show. Who's ever running the show owns everything that came before it. So unless you want to apologize to the contempt, the absolute contempt of people that supported your franchise for decades, I know for me, you won't win me back. It's like, for me, that
I completely respect that.
It's in the same, it's a line in the sand. You don't apologize, I'm out.
Can I ask how explicit an apology do you need? Because I think you're going to get a tacit one. I don't think you're going to get an explicit one, but I think you're going to get a tacit one. Because I think they are like retconning the. But my guess is at the beginning of the era when she fell out the TARDIS, when the TARDIS vomited her out, which was quite that all made sense. But yes. So I think that she's been in like this toy maker's realm or another realm all that time, which is how they're going to explain away all the continuity errors, and yet have the Jodie fans go, "Oh."
Can I just say, like a lot of it has to do with the journalists too. They're not asking them these questions. They're not. They're sort of like, totally going around everything to do with the previous stuff. They're just not asking the right questions. They're not.
Yeah. Well, no. What's going on is this, right? We have won to such a huge extent. We've been proved right to such a huge earth-shattering extent, we have to pretend that nothing happened. Because that's the only way they can cope with it, right? Like I do this thing every day where I learn a page of the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud. It's like a several thousand-year-old document. And you learn a page a day, you finish it in 7 years. I'm on my second thing. Now, I'd love to study it with my pet dog, Daisy. I would love to do that, right?
Yeah.
But Daisy can't do that. And if I was mad at Daisy for not being able to study the Babylonian Talmud with me, right? Because it's not, she can't do it, right? Same way, they can't deal with being wrong. Have you seen the American government over the last few days? When they they can't cope with being wrong.
Russell can't. I would love Russell to say that, Chris. Yeah. But if he does say that, then basically everybody will know he was talking about Chibs. Exactly. So that's the thing, you see, that he can't do that because of professionality. He's a professional. He's not going to slag off the person that left the house. You know what I mean? He can't do that because that's unprofessional. What gets me
is that people aren't going. Yeah, I know.
You can't do that, right? So that's the reason why he can't apologize. I think if those rules didn't exist, he would apologize for the last.
What about us that aren't professional though?
Sorry, no, but that's what I'm saying. I understand.
What I'm saying is, why aren't we allowed to go to a convention or whatever and say, how come your show sucked, Jodie? Why couldn't you act for 5 minutes straight?
Well, this is also close to one thing that I'd been saying for years. When a franchise is damaged this badly, is the only way to ever bring it back is the show needed a break. the show needed 5
It
years.
got broken, all right.
5 years at minimum, or
I had a break
10.
for 5 years. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like
Yeah.
after this era, it needed to go away for a while, enough time to separate versus what's happened, and this is because of the sort of the way professionalism works. In terms of the time frame, people are still angry, and I don't think there's an easy way for RTD to get around this. And and like I said, I don't make videos
because he has got a day job to do, hasn't he? Fielding this kind of politics and a hangover from a job that somebody else has done badly. That's not why he's there. That's not his day-to-day job, is it? So, but I'm sort of coming around to your way of thinking about this. That maybe, as you say, Rabbi, that something tacit will be incoming.
I think it will be tacit in the storytelling, right? But as Ian said, they're not. He can't publicly.
He can't do it.
And he's been very.
I just want more people to call them out. That's the thing. I'm just sick of people dilly-dallying around the subject, and
or even
they're not to their faces, you know.
So when you saw this story break, Andy, did you punch the air? Was it one of those? At last, somebody said it. Was it like,
a little bit over the top, but I was like, just laughed, just went, bloody hell, about bloody time somebody said it.
You know what? The reason why
you
he
think
said
it'll stop here?
He watched Type 40. That's the reason why he said it.
Possibly.
A man of taste. Do you think it will stop here? Do you think other people will be listeing to what Russell's saying? Because he gave that to the Sunday Times, didn't he? It wasn't to chat or TV quick.
I mean, I think it will. I hope it will have an effect, because normally, like someone of his standing, it always sort of takes one person, doesn't it, just to stand up and say something. Yeah.
And this problem is not isolated to Doctor Who at all, is it?
No. So I can see other people, creatives, sort of going, yeah, I do agree with Russell, and yes, we want inclusion and diversity, but was it James Gunn said exactly the same thing, didn't he, this week? That it's jumped the gun, but it's all about storytelling, and storytelling will come first. Making a very clear thing that it's not going to be about the message. Let's wait and see. So that's two people on either side of the pond starting to say that storytelling and characterization is important, and it's not. Yes, you can put some messaging in there, but it doesn't start with the message. It starts with the story, and that's two influential people that have said that.
That dude who's running Picard season 3 is also
Terry Matalis.
He's not slagging off, because he's working with them. So he's not slagging them off.
You can't do it.
But the things that he's saying, it's kind of, and the people that he's courting, and the way that he is personally engaging with the fandom in a way that I think
he's kind of is. After he had a little bit of spat a little while ago because people were giving him such a hard time, but he's definitely dialed it back. He's joking. He's interacting with the fan base, and
hung in there, didn't he? Yeah. He took a lot of crap that a lot of creatives. I mean, look how James Mangold reacted to just a few questions about his Indiana Jones movie. He made himself, and James Mangold is like well old enough to know better. He's made some seriously. I've never seen that man make a bad movie. He should have held frame. He should have kept frame a lot better.
They're so reshooting that. I would love to see the alternate universe where I could see the original cut of No Time to Die with the
Rise of Skywalker,
the gun barrel sequence at the end, right? And the original cut of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, where Phoebe Waller-Bridge becomes Indiana Jones. That was going to happen, right? Until the world changed. That was so. They reshot No Time to Die to take out that gun barrel sequence at the end. And it was. You can see the shots were Mega Geek. You're a filmmaker. You can see all the shots were there to end up with Lashana going, "Dad, come on, we have work to do."
But they took most of her stuff out, don't you? That's why if you took her out of the movie as it exists now, it wouldn't have made any difference. They took a lot of her stuff out for reasons unknown. So I think you're right there. You're right.
It would have been. I'd love to
The reason
see.
it's crap, yeah.
We've had this conversation before. I don't believe that. I think if they had done the film, it's already a very long film. But we've had that conversation before. Garbage says, "Well, they're not journalists now, are they? They're activists with a message."
Yeah.
This says the message needs to be preached at all costs. No apologies or admissions of guilt allowed.
Yeah, but
yeah.
they're out of juice.
Problem is with a lot of journalists now, they're also bullies as well.
A lot of those journalists have lost their positions, Matt. Have you seen company after company, news group after news group, slashing jobs everywhere?
I recently, this journalist on Twitter came out and said, why is everybody complaining that I released this information and everything about this, this woman, and I've destroyed her career? And I'm like, well, because you've got a bit of a, you think everybody thinks you're a bit of a bully, and he blocked me straight away. And it's like, well, there you go. You just won't. Yeah.
I'm wondering now. I want to make another punt. Who I think this could be. I'm thinking other gamers. A gamer, Doctor Who, anonymous, and a friend of yours. I think this could be Az from Heel versus Babyface.
No. You have to go way back in the Bulls Trek timeline.
Back, Doctor, you must go back.
It's the goat.
No. The goat's still on.
Back.
Oh yeah, if you want, the goat's still on. No, the goat's not talking to me. He's in Europe right now. I made the goat mad when
he's up a mountain.
He's been canceled and he's lost his professorship and he's very sad.
Like Jordan Peterson.
I wanted to bring to your attention how archaic and out of step and stupid Marvel looks right now. Right, because they're leaning even more into their TV division. Their movie
got
division
so much commissioned, haven't they?
But yeah, with the announcement that the woke character of Riri Williams is going to now be double woke because he's trans. Right, the character
we could just laugh at this stuff.
Is now going to be a masculine, boyish girl. Because it's like nothing's woke enough now. It's like going triple woke, and it's like who cares? No one's watching your crap.
It's because there's no end goal to progressivism.
Well,
there is no finite point.
I don't mind having trans characters on screen, whether it be the silver screen or TV screen. I don't mind that. But what I do mind is when they take a trans character or take someone of color and take a character that's been there for years and years and flip it and make them black or make them trans. That's what I'm against. I have to make that totally clear. Yes. I'm not against what Russell T is going to write. I wasn't against Captain Jack. I thought he was great. The thing you mentioned, Dan, the show Brookside. I love that storyline with the two girls that fell in love. Yeah, absolutely fantastic TV, right? But when you take something that's been there for 50 years and it's been in such a way, and then you destroy it because of what's happening today, that's where I draw the line with me. And I won't watch shows like that at all. So that's where I stand.
But porn parodies, that's all fine.
Yes.
Nolly, the drama that Russell T Davies is out there promoting at the moment, that's just dropped on ITV2. All 3 episodes are there to watch. No, not ITV2, ITVX. God, how many ITVs must they have? So that's there. Doctor Who's back in November, and you can get even more Doctor Who talk on Type 40 Live every Thursday here on the Spacebook channel, or the Type 40 podcast there too. All the podcasts up on the feed at the moment. Where's that? Yeah, so you can catch our 2-part Doctor Who annual for 2023. That's up on the feed now, as is myself and Simon Horton sitting down for a chat with the legendary Doctor Who artist Colin Howard. Don't miss that if you haven't heard it already. We've got a brilliant review just today from Colin's own wife, which was just fantastic. So you go and hit that up on all the podcatchers or here on the Spacebook channel. I hear you've been making friends again, Chris. What's been going on with your love affair with the good people?
Hello, everyone. Okay, so now that I'm done back in my I just fall back into my gold grumpiness. Like it was my resolution. I'm not going to be grumpy Bulls Trek anymore. I'm going to be. It's that show. It's like it's just it makes me grumpy.
It's just a show. It's just a show.
Okay, everybody, we're going to take a deep breath. Zen, Uma. Okay. So
bang a cymbal, somebody. Go on.
I forgot we were going to. Okay, so now back to humorous ranty former Bulls Trek. Yes. So is this? Oh yes. So I am talking about this. Okay. So if you remember before Christmas, I went on a 30-minute rant for all of you that were here, where I was screaming into my microphone and my puppy ran away because I was mad. Although it's kind of funny because I know that a few people actually added Scream Factory with that rant. So just to summarize very quickly the issues. Now, for those of you who don't know, Scream Factory, it's a Region 1. It's a sub-imprint of Shout Factory, which is probably the king of boutique physical media here in Region 1. And Scream Factory for the longest time had been like the king of the physical media. And then in 2022, they decided to poop themselves over and over again repeatedly, and then didn't bother cleaning up their mess. So just in summary of what they did. So there was the well, I guess I'll give you the mail update. So they had their Shocktober sale 3 months ago. You all heard the horror stories of how packages.
Yeah, you had 3 packages and only one turned up.
Well, no, one turned up, but I ended up having to pay $50 because they screwed up on the importing. One of them came, so there's 3 of them. The second one came and it was beat to hell and it had boot marks on it. And then the third one ended up being lost in the mail and I ended up getting it 3 months later. But the complaints that many of us have had with Scream Factory over the year, which I highlighted in my rant, which brought the blood pressure through the roof, and it was like revisiting the old days, is their output had started to suck. So they were known at one of the things that pissed a lot of people off was they release a lot of lesser known things that had never been released on Blu-ray. In 2022, they stopped doing that for the most part. And anything that did come out was an exclusive that cost a small fortune on their website. Then there was the fact that what was widely available sort of was just re-release after re-release of stuff they'd already put out, very expensive releases on 4K. So we were a little bit grumpy about that. Then the big complaint I made, which I think this is where they took notice, is they weren't licensing any of this stuff to be available in Canada. So most of the collector's editions and so forth in 2022, I had to import at a small fortune from the US because they were not available in Canada. There were also production issues. There was Greasegate, which was the release of Child's Play, where there was a black film all over the DVD cases. I didn't get that one because too expensive, and I already had it. So there was Greasegate, and then with the limited stuff on their website, one of the movies that I wanted was the 9th Configuration, which I was out of print before I got it. But then there was the famous misprinting on the sleeve itself, which said it was the 9th Coin Figuration. So how that went through. So their quality control had gone to crap. So they are making somewhat better strides to not pooping themselves. So they've largely stopped with the limited stuff. So their first release stuff is now widely available and not limited. They are finally again starting to release things that aren't, they're still expensive, but they're not re-releases of stuff that you'd had. And here's the big thing. So I say thank you, Scream Factory. They're all available for order in Canada. So I was very happy about that. Well, we don't know if Greasegate's been fixed, and hopefully they've got their spell checker working. But yeah, but no, it's my rant. Actually, people had forwarded that to the section of that stream, whichever one it was, to Scream Factory. So literally, I wonder if they actually listen to me. I wonder if for the first time in my life, screaming on the YouTubes actually made a difference. So am I the reason that this stuff is available in Canada again? I'm like,
take the win, mate. Take the win.
Take it, yeah.
So I'll take this as a win. So thank you, Scream Factory. So this is more an addendum to my rant, or my screaming rant of, I guess it was 4 months ago. So this is an update. So
Yes.
usually I'm used to, when I yell at something, they suck and then they just continue sucking. But we must acknowledge when somebody or some company stops sucking, and Scream Factory actually did listen to the fans. They've cut it out with all this limited crap. They've started releasing original things again. They still need to work on their pricing, but things have turned around. I'll share my screen just to show you what's coming out from a company that let's see, present the slides. No, share screen. Okay, I'm a boomer. Okay, share screen. Well, which screen? Okay, I want to share. There we
changed the settings last week. Yeah.
I know. Do I want to share audio? No. Why would I want to share audio here? I'll just share this. Okay. So why is this different? Okay. There we go. Okay, Dan, I think I've shared something.
I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. There we are.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's their release calendar. So literally they put out nothing of value. So this is also the physical media update, because I have not done a Scream Factory update since the summer because I've been mad at them. But so the stuff that we've got, so it's what they're doing now. It's a mix of things, which is nice. So I already have this on, I have their Blu-ray edition, but People Under the Stairs, being released on 4K. So that's
that one.
good. Now, again, re-release, and also what they're doing, because people were complaining they weren't even giving us new artwork. So they fixed that. Their re-releases do have new artwork. This is a new since DVD. I don't think this ever got a Blu-ray release, but The Haunting of Julia from 1977.
That's coming out here as well.
Yep. I think it's the same transfer.
Not in 4K.
I love it when they use the period artwork like that.
It's but no, so I don't think this has been out since DVD, so I'm assuming you're not getting it on 4K. That sucks, but you can import this. It's 4K if you really want to see it.
Yeah, well, that's the best thing about Shout, because and Scream is the fact that they have really good Blu-rays, but the problem is though they're region locked, and with Blu-ray it's a real pain in the backside. So yeah, with the 4K,
it's a lot of their Blu-ray stuff.
I really want to get the Bubba Hotep one.
I have the Blu-ray, but that was, at least they gave it new artwork. And then we have, so this is what they used to do, new to just regular Blu-ray, which they seem to have stopped last year completely for about 8 months, and then they brought it back, and I think this is because people were yelling at them. But anyway, so and it's always a mix of things. So Endangered Species, this is from the early 80s. I've heard it slightly. Bless the Child. It can basically,
I think I've seen that.
The early
Ricky
90s. Here's one that a lot of people have been waiting for. Dead Silence. So this was a James Wan movie from 2007. This was
very good
as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even know this one exists, because he was known for Saw at the time, but this was before his other like 3 franchises had caught fire.
Well, it was just a shame that it didn't go into a sequel, and they pretty much left it as is, I wanted the sequel to it, so
maybe we will get a sequel now.
It all reminds me of that film Magic with
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, it's a ventriloquist dummy. Yeah, possessed ventriloquist dummy.
All right.
I haven't seen it since it was originally released on DVD in 2007. So
if you like M. Night Shyamalan, you might like it as well.
Oh, I do, and it's always been my controversial opinion, but I love Shyamalan. Even his terrible movies are amusing. Okay, so what else?
What a twist!
So we got The Exorcist Part 3. Which this one I have the original.
That's not
is that
bad,
a Stevie Wayne action figure? Oh wow!
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, they do action figures if you collect that. But Exorcist 3, I have pre-ordered this one in Canada.
I've got that
Blu-ray.
It's a really good movie.
Oh, I saw it.
Really underrated.
Underrated.
Has that got the director's version with the added footage, Chris?
No, that's the first one. This is the 3, Exorcist 3.
But three had some extra.
I did it.
That one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it does or not. It might. I have to. I think there's multiple cuts. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
It's a good film. It's quite creepy as
film.
well. It's really creepy.
And here's a classic, Dr. Giggles. So this was actually their comeback, because everybody started to dread Scream Factory releases because they were disappointing and they were becoming re-releases of re-releases. So they came back by announcing Dr. Giggles, which people have been demanding on Blu-ray since the dawn of Blu-ray.
Chris, that from everything that you've said, they had to have had more negative feedback as well. There
They
must have
did.
been quite a...
Like they've gone all out.
Sales
You notice
were down.
there's a mix of movies here as well. Sorry, wrong number. So you got dude here. So this is obviously 1950s. About to slap his significant other.
Yeah, I was just thinking that cover wouldn't fly today. I tell you.
Although this is the other thing, there is so it's a mix, like it's horror or suspense, things like that, but it's a mix. Razorback, which people have wanted for years.
That's a great Australian movie. That one.
And then, this one I can understand because it was out of print, even though some Slumber Party Massacre 2 is completely ridiculous. It's it's kind of
I think
but it's been out of print for years, so people are happy about that. I passed on this because I got the Blu-ray.
Is there nudity? There has to be nudity in it. There has to be.
Oh yeah, all the films of that era have
90s.
nudity in it. So there's no surprise
actually,
there,
more
is
so
it?
in the first one than the second one. The second one is an Elvis impersonator. Basically, is killing people.
Is that when he's got the guitar that's like a drill? Is that?
Yep. It's a drill guitar. He kills people with his guitar.
And it's the 80s. Anything is possible, right?
Definitely saw that.
And then the last thing is so this is basically everything from. So this is all their limited stuff. These are stuff that many people missed out on because of their policy, which I think so Space Truckers, if you wanted that, no, that's gone because they did that limited. Nobody bought this. Flesh Eaters, I got that, but you can't get that anymore. Meat Cleaver Massacre, so this is part of my rant, can't get that anymore. These two really, these four really pissed me off because I wanted to get all four of these, and they came out and I was saving money at the time, so I didn't get them. Then they were out of print.
Communion, that's the one with Christopher Walken, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's one that I'd wanted for years, and now because Scream Factory owns the distribution rights and they're out of print, you will probably never see these on physical media again. So luckily they've done away with this. So this was all their standalone stuff from last year. All the stuff I've just mentioned is not limited except for this, which this probably won't sell out anyway, but it's a double feature. That's the only limited thing they're doing this year. So that is my Scream Factory update. So I will say Scream Factory. Very few companies do this now, but you listen to the fans. So this is my update. So I retract my complaints from last year. Although you could be nice and put those 4 films back in print so all the people that missed out can get them. Hopefully we won't get any greasy black goo on our cases this year. And just fix your spell checker and everything will be good. So who did
you wouldn't think that the black goo would make it through the mail system. You wouldn't think, that like, because it could be explosive or anything,
Well, no, it was inside the case, and what it was something to do with the way they'd manufactured the case. They hadn't cooled it properly or something before packaging. So people are getting black goo on their Blu-ray players, and it took over very well.
It certainly wasn't some weird FBI plot to infect you with an alien virus. Don't think that.
It could be. It is
the symbiote.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm thrilled for you because I know that it was very much a painful separation between you and that label, wasn't it? I could say. But that's the thing, is that when you've been a devotee of one particular brand and their standards drop for whatever reason, and you think back to the good days when you would anticipate getting a list of new releases, and then it all dries up.
We've got one here called Umbrella, and they used to release everything UK science fiction,
the Avengers and stuff like that.
UFO. And Jason King, and they'd get all this special stuff like commentaries and that with Peter Weingart and all that, and like they just all of a sudden they've just gone into this really weird culture now where it's like the obscure films, and it's like, but I remember the days where you used to have great television, where you'd show stuff that we'd never seen before, Department S, all that stuff.
Well, you'll be pleased to learn that. Well, hopefully, you'll have some delivery that you can unpack and tell us about.
But here's the big point, Dan. So this is something you don't normally see because we've seen companies and people that make various TV shows and stuff. They make crap and they make everybody mad, and then they double down on it, and then it gets worse. But it's very rare we see this where, yes, they actually became the worst of the boutique labels, but they were only the worst of the boutique labels for a year. And then they listened to the complaints, and then they turned it around. And we never see that anymore. So I have to give them props. I'm like, it's like, it wasn't just a slight turnaround. They're like, okay, not only are we going to turn around, but we're going to give you these releases that you've been wanting us to put out for like a decade. So props to Scream Factory. Rant retraction over.
Scream Factory saw again. If you're a Scream Factory customer as well and you've had a similar experience to Chris, or if you love physical media, get in touch. Leave us a message in the comments section about your favorite titles, about things that you are frustrated that you can't get from boutique labels or from any retailers anymore. We're very interested in physical media here on the Spacebook channel, and there's a dedicated VAM show on the way soon too. I'm happy to say where we're going to get out some of our latest purchases. That's the theory behind it, and wave them at you the way that Matt is there rather clumsily doing there. So stay tuned for that. More VAM here on the Spacebook channel, and hopefully more progress reports and a little more chipper and more upbeat as that one from our Chris there. Thanks for that. Thanks for keeping us informed. And yeah, I'm over the moon for you, mate. Over the moon. Yeah, and now our a little late, but we are into our feature conversation here. This is the big one. This is the big geeky news of the week. I grew up reading comics, British comics and American comics, and from all imprints, Marvel and DC. And I've always found it a little difficult to choose which was my favorite brand, because I sort of hovered between the two mainstream ones there and picked up a little bit of Black Horse and all that kind of thing. But I think when it all comes to when it comes down to the wire, I am a DC guy. That doesn't mean to say that I don't enjoy Marvel, and I haven't enjoyed the Marvel movies. But because I'm a DC guy and because these characters, I do feel that DC has got a better, generally speaking, a better set of legendary characters and of brands in their hall of justice there. So they're kind of characters that you've found on underpants and lunchboxes for literally decades, and for almost as long, really. It was DC that dominated in the cinemas, wasn't it? Most notably those Christopher Reeve movies, but not exclusively, and television hits like Linda Carter's Wonder Woman and all the rest of it. Now, obviously, the huge success of the Marvel Studios line from 2008 onwards, DC noticed that, and they kind of shifted their strategy, didn't they? And they got Zack Snyder involved on a really quite ambitious plan in around 2012, that was, wasn't it? Before Man of Steel came out. And through one thing or another, personal tragedy and playing cowardice on the behalf of studio execs there at Warner Brothers, things went things went off the rails. Everything hit the skids, and we're sort of back to square one with DC. But they have new heads, new champions, and new guardians, if you like. I can never get this guy's name right. Peter Safran. He's the one that I always forget his name. It's Peter Safran and James Gunn. I don't know. I know Peter Safran's work, as it turns out, but James Gunn, of course, we all know him from his tremendous success with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies over at Marvel, as well as films like Slither and Super. Those are two of his, weren't they? And yeah, so I've always for the most part, enjoyed his work. And about 3 months ago, they were both announced, weren't they, as the new heads of the newly rechristened DC Studios within Warner Brothers Discovery. And I think it was not long after that they said, we'll be coming at you sooner rather than later with our intentions. This was all in the wake of David Safran cancelling what did look like it was going to be an absolute car crash in that Batgirl movie. So it got somebody swinging the axe in one corner, and you got these two guys seemingly cleaning house in the other. They haven't been drawn. I think they've been quite open, particularly James Gunn on social media. He's always been a Twitter user, been quite professional, but I think he's also been quite approachable. Open to having conversations with fans about what's coming next. And he did say that we would find out pretty early in the new year what was going to happen generally speaking, at least when it was going to start, and we have indeed. So yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about DC movies, about superhero movies, because I do believe, generally speaking, that superhero fatigue is probably a thing. I think there's a genuine danger of that. Just looking over at Marvel, what's going on there, what the things that they're choosing creatively, and how audiences are responding. Could this relaunch from DC and this rebranding as DC Studios, could this be too late? Could the quality of whatever they make, could it be academic by the time we get to see this? I'm not entirely sure, but I read through this list of first productions, a good mix of TV shows and movies. There's 5 movies and 5 TV shows that are going to make up what they're calling Chapter 1, which is under the title of Gods and Monsters. That's a very DC byline, isn't it, Rabbi? You're a comics guy. That is very DC. It's very Alex Ross.
It is. Look, for me, I'm excited by it. Quite frankly,
So am I.
it's a direction. It's a new direction, and they've had to inherit a lot of crap. I mean, I'm sure they're not thrilled to have Blue Beetle and the other crap that they got coming up. They're going to suffer through Aquaman, and they're going to put a good face on all this stuff. And then they're going to say the Flash reboots everything, and then they're going into their stuff. Their stuff sounds quite exciting.
That Blue Beetle logo looks very 80s.
I think that looks fun. I mean, we've not seen any footage from Blue Beetle yet. All we've seen is a costume, and it's got that guy that we like from Cobra Kai in it. That's all we really know about it. But these 4 films are due to come out this year before, I think Aquaman is the last one. That's out November time, something like that.
December,
I suppose we could look at this, Andy, as Chapter 0, if you like, because apparently creatively and story-wise, I think they're leaving it so that if viewers want to view the Flash movie as a literal reset of the timeline, just the same way Flashpoint was in the comics, then we can. But if you just want to go and see these movies individually, they reassure us that you'll be able to watch them as events in themselves. And I would imagine there'll be probably end credit sequences, because nobody seems to be able to resist doing that anymore. But I think this is promising, and I think that the way that they're looking at the general landscape is, I think it's not brave as such, because they've got the money, haven't they? And they're probably in very comfortable positions. I think James Gunn is certainly there for a full 10 years, isn't he? They've got him exclusively for 10 years, undoubtedly at the height of his game. His final Marvel film comes out in April, I think. So they've got him to survey it all. And he's been posting, hasn't he, over on Twitter, his reading material over the last 2 or 3 months too. So we've seen various chunky graphic novels and collected editions there that are sort of, I don't know, it's reassured me that, and I'm somebody who, generally speaking, I've liked a lot of James Gunn's work, but I do not like him as a person generally. I certainly don't share his sense of humor, and I don't necessarily like how he's spoken to people in the past. But it's almost like he's transformed instantaneously into a professional following him over in recent months. Okay, so I want to look at each of these and just to see how you felt about them, really. I'll tell you how I feel about it too. Of course I will. Now, in my view, one of the major problems with DC since Christopher Reeve last played the part, despite the best efforts of people like Bryan Singer and of Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder, come to think of it, is that the DC universe absolutely must revolve around Superman. If you haven't got a formidable Superman who's well cast, telling a story that is clear about what he represents, then you haven't got a DC universe. And sure enough, they're coming out of the stocks with this first. This has got a date. It's called Superman Legacy, and it's to be released on July the 11th, 2025, and it's going to kick off Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, to start the DCU, as they're now calling it officially. James Gunn has gone out of his way to make it clear that we know that they're not going to be retelling Superman's origin again. So I think that's a relief, because everybody's seen it so many times. But it seems that they're going for something which is the kind of story that can only be told with Superman, rather than taking something that would maybe fit another character at another studio or within that universe and make it fit Superman to make it seem cooler, it would seem they're going to hone in on what makes Superman unique and Clark Kent unique and what he actually represents. And to me, that's a lot clearer when you think about the inspiration for it, which is allegedly going to be All-Star Superman from Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, which came out in around 2007, wasn't it, Matt? That one? The Maxi series?
Yeah, I actually do have that one.
Yes, so
yeah.
so do I.
And like I love that they're using the Frank Quitely artwork for it, because it really has the strength and the majesty of Superman. Yeah, it's beautiful, right? The strength and the majesty of Superman, while at the same time being very new and exciting.
So the sense of scale in this, the way it's presented. I mean, Frank Quitely's, in my view, is one of the best illustrators working in sequential comic book art, one of the most idiosyncratic, and this is absolutely essential. It's a seminal comic from I think probably the last great decade of comics. I think a lot of good stuff came out in the noughties, particularly at DC, come to think of it. And this book, this collected one, I can't recommend it highly enough. But Superman is a character who means a lot to you. I think he means a lot to all of us. But Ian, you talk a lot about Superman, and you were tweeting about this the other day. I mean, my one, we know that James Gunn is writing the screenplay for Superman Legacy. Apparently, Peter Safran is trying to encourage him to direct it too. And I've seen all of James Gunn's movies. I do like how playful he can be, and I'm sure, and he seems to be reading the right things. But is James Gunn the right man to direct this Superman movie? He may be the right person to write it, but is he the right man to direct a Superman movie? Because apparently Peter Safran is pushing for that, and they're working very closely on this. So what do you think? Should he direct it or not?
I don't know. I mean, he seems to be. I mean, I don't know. His tone is very different, isn't it? I mean, if we were to go on, the Guardians of the Galaxy tone, if he's going to put that in it, then it's not going to be right, is it? Do you know what? Right, I listened to everything that he said, and quite frankly, I'm really disappointed. All we really need is a good Superman movie and a good Batman movie, and then everything else will follow. But
a Superman movie and a Batman movie are on the slate.
Yeah, I know. But he's like the first things they're going to be shoving us is Waller. Is it Waller?
We'll come to that in a moment. I want to talk about it project by project. I don't want to dart across it. I want to talk about it project by project rather than darting around, because there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said for this. I mean, we've got here. Peter Safran says this is a standalone production entity and studio, and it's the first time that everything DC related, film, television, live action, animation, and gaming is going to be centralized, and it's all under the vision of James and myself. So they're clearly they're very attentive to it. They're working on this constantly together. And the Superman film, it says it focuses. This is directly from James Gunn now. It focuses on Superman balancing, because it's written this. It's certainly, he's probably done one or two drafts of it. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with that human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. That's reassuring. This is Peter Safran who's saying this. Sorry, not James Gunn. So Safran says he is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. That is not only a version of the character that we're seeing endorsed, even in DC Comics at the moment. They've got rid of that truth, justice, and the American way tagline, but also the idea of kindness is also desperately out of fashion. Everything is so cynical, isn't it? They're talking about something that chimes back to the very core of the character, I feel, Rabbi.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to tell, honestly.
Yeah.
And you can imprint on this whatever you. It's not the J.J. Abrams Black Superman movie, which is very good news.
That'll slowly die off, I think.
Yeah, no, it's very leaning into it seems to be leaning into very, very classic Superman. I mean, like, everyone's disappointed they're getting rid of Henry Cavill.
Are they? I'm not. Go on.
I like him a lot. Should he direct it? Yes, he should absolutely direct it. It's his vision. He changes his style depending on what the movie is and what the thing is. It'll be bright. It'll be colorful, which I think Superman needs to be. I think it'll be a more mature movie than his other ones. It'll be more respectful, I think. It's but it'll still be fun, and it'll be Frank Quietly's Superman is what it will be, which is very kinetic.
This is the book that you need to go to, isn't it? And the ideas are big. The visuals just on the page are cinematic. This is the version of the character to bring to the big screen. We've got a comment here again from this is from James Gunn now, who says that Superman is for everyone. This is a 4-quadrant film, so that's when they talk about demographics, isn't it? A 4-quadrant film that should speak to everyone in the world. So they're not talking about excluding this in any way or taking it in one. They're not talking about subverting it in any way. They seem to be very aware of the potential reach of this, and for a change, aware of what they've got in this iconic character that's pretty much irreplaceable, even in comics, even in a time that we've had just how many Marvel movies? 30 Marvel movies, and however many else. A great Superman movie, I believe, can get people in the cinemas who wouldn't necessarily go and see Marvel movie number 34.
Marvel has destroyed itself, right? Marvel has just absolutely destroyed itself. Like, no one's interested in seeing their movies. I'm like, Ant-Man, Quantumania might be good, but nobody cares anymore. They've lost the majesty. This is like that could be cinematic and fun, right? I honestly, you see how backward Marvel is when you see them compared to anything else. And they are. It's kind of pathetic when you look at it.
And as much
they
as
tried to rush a lot too much through, I think.
As much as I like what Zack Snyder was doing stylistically, he didn't really bring us Superman. He brought us a certain version of the Superman character. I wouldn't call it a subversion of it, but it was a very particular reading of it. In the same way that Tim Burton's Batman was a particular reading of that.
I didn't like the edge, no.
Whereas this, if they take it right the way back to the center, the core of the character, and they can take it somewhere else afterwards. I mean, I suppose it's all down to the casting, isn't it? That's probably more important than even the writer or the actor. And I know that there's a lot of people very loyal to Henry Cavill, but they insist that Henry Cavill. I've got a quote here, and they talk about the hiring or not hiring. They say that, let me get this absolutely right. They said it wasn't that. Okay, yeah, Henry Cavill was not fired. Henry Cavill was just not hired to be Superman in the Superman movie. There was never a deal there for another movie, and that's what it was. I think Henry's a great guy. I think he's getting dicked around by a lot of people, including the former regime at this company. But this Superman is not Henry, and that's for a number of reasons. So that's what, and he's written the damn thing. So I think, again, we may not like that answer. Some of us may not like it. For me, that's music to my ears. To be truthful, I think Henry Cavill will be fine. But we may not like that answer, but they seem very, very clear about where they're going, and that's why I have confidence. Superman means the world to me. I have confidence that at least this could be in the right right hands. What are you feeling about this, Matt? What do you think?
Did you notice, like, during that whole Gunn introduction thing, he never once mentioned the Snyderverse or anything to do with Mr. Snyder?
Why would he?
And well, that's it. But the thing is, though, like, they're still mentioning stuff like the Flash and all this, and now then he said, oh, it's a reboot, and then he's talked that back now, and he's like saying, it's not. But yeah, I mean, Superman to me.
They've got a legal department, remember, and they've got a film to publicize.
Yeah. But like what you just took past there, the Man of Steel stuff, John Byrne and all that sort of stuff. That very early on, when they set that all up back in the 80s and everything, I love the fact that
my time.
He had no political allegiance. Politicians and that had come up to him to try to use him as a spokesman or whatever, and he'd just fly off. He just didn't want anything to do with it.
He's above that. He's with the people, but he's above that, and that's why I feel this image from Frank Quietly. This says so much of all the images they could have picked to publicize this.
Probably the last great Superman book, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you talk about The Man of Steel there by John Byrne. That was the first. That's what got me back into the comics there. For me, where they should be looking, if they want to look at an origin, though, is this miniseries. I've got every issue of this. A Secret Origin. That's by Gary Frank. and Jeff Johns there, so that retold the whole thing there. I'd be looking at that,
got that one
and
too.
I would be going through this as well, the greatest Superman stories ever told, and just soaking in all this stuff. I would imagine that James Gunn is. This goes right the way up to the Byrne stuff. There's the iconic Man of Steel there. So that's,
I mean, I know I've got Batman
ideal
stuff
Superman.
behind me, but I was never ever a Batman fan. I was always a Superman fan. It was only until
was
the
more
animated
Superman as
series that I loved Batman. But other than that, Superman to me was everything. You know how they say, he's a Boy Scout. That's exactly what he is. He just meant for truth, justice. So what for the American way? So what? But
I mean, the way I look at it,
it was uncorruptible.
When I heard him say it was going to focus on that duality between his Kryptonian heritage and his human upbringing, I thought, oh yeah, again, that's another difficult thing to pull off, because I think the novelty to Superman, the appeal, is the purity of the fact that even though he isn't human, Andy, his humanity, it's that's what's informed him, and that's what shines bright as a figure of hope, isn't it? What do you think about this in particular? Because I know that you were quite loyal to Henry Cavill, weren't you? Very into him staying for whatever reason. So the Superman movie I feel it's the most important building block of this whole thing.
Oh, it's absolutely the jumping off point. And so, like you say, if the story doesn't have those values, I feel like the Christopher Reeve type values, like if you can't look at him and go, that's Superman, it's done. Doesn't matter how good the story is, if it doesn't have the right values. And they said the casting is 100%. Look, it's a 25-year-old Superman. You can't have Henry Cavill, who's nearly 40, playing a 25-year-old. Get that, and it makes sense he's not Superman. I mean, if they were going to make a more established Superman, absolutely, I'd be like, what the hell are you thinking?
Because Andy, out here in the fandom menace, if you like, as commentators, we've been saying that story is more important than anything. And so if James Gunn's got a story, if the story is more important than story.
Though, I think you've got to get it. For me, with this sort of thing, it's 50-50. The story's got to be great, but the casting has got to be spot on. If you can't look at that person and go, that is Superman, because if you got the right Superman, you could be probably a little bit more forgiving on the story. But the story still needs to be, knock it out of the park, for people to go, I'm going to get off my arse and go see this superhero film because I'm a bit fed up, but I've heard so much stuff. I'm going to go see it, right? So for this, I think it's got to be, both have got to be on par. And what I'm racking my brains about is because it's 25-year-old, do you think there aren't that many young actors, good quality actors in Hollywood at that age group that have this kind of build, right? They're all like the lean waif.
They're going to have him. They're going to do what they did to Christopher Reeve, aren't they? They're going to send him into a gym somewhere for 4 months, load him up on tablets and supplements.
What I'm thinking is it going to, they're going to take someone and like you say, get them in the gym, or is it going to be a complete unknown? And I actually think it could well be a complete unknown.
I do.
Potentially already has the build, and these, they're not starting from scratch. He's probably, a bit like Tom Welling, that sort of build.
Yeah.
And go from there. And again, I think they can get someone a bit Tom Welling-esque. I think that would work really, really well, because that's kind of like the age that Clark ended up at the end of Smallville, wasn't it? So yeah, I mean, the legacy part, and someone put it in the chat, I'm like, if it's your first Superman film, why would you have legacy in the title? I'm a bit like, that's a bit weird. Are they planning on killing him off again? I don't know, but I mean, the comic. I think in this instance, it's more a legacy that he inherits rather than something that he is passing on. Although it does seem also clear to me that this being the first film, that this story-wise will go off in different directions. So there'll be things that can be picked up, threads to it, to heritage. And I mean, when I look back at past Superman shows and movies. And I've liked most of them, more than not, certainly, and particularly including the first Richard Donner film. I love all of them,
But when I feel that when the hairs really start to go up on the back of my neck, it's the moments where he discovers the spacecraft underneath the floorboards in a barn, for example. It's that
great,
clash.
yeah.
That's when, and I think, okay, so now I get it. Now I understand why they're doing this, because that's the moment where those productions really start to sort of set you alight. And I felt that Man of Steel was the same way. Every single time I've seen that done, that's the moment where it's connected. It's got that kinetic energy that you were talking about.
Yeah, the original Superman film, when they do the bit when he's younger and he's at high school, and obviously they explored it a lot in Smallville with the whole, he kind of actually resents being an alien and resents his powers, and all they do is keep him isolated, and they're very much a negative thing while he's younger. And hopefully the age he's pitched at as this is him maybe coming out the other side of that, isn't it? And understanding what he can do with those gifts and powers. And like I say, the whole morality, I think it's almost like morality more than humanity, because humanity isn't very humane, is he? And he's better than us. And it's very much a morality tower, I think, about, old fashioned, when things are much more black and white, like that's good, that's evil. That's a bad guy. That's a good guy. Very clear, defined. I'm
going to say, I don't want to use the phrase. I wouldn't say conservative values, but I think they're wholesome values that he represents.
Anti-heroes, haven't we? That you kind of end up rooting for the bad guy. Whereas, again, I think this really needs to be, whether it's Lex Luthor or someone else. It's very much that's the good guy, that's the bad guy, and we all know who we're rooting for, kind of thing. That's really what I think this film needs to be. And I think Maverick sort of kicked the door open to go in. You can make something old-fashioned and people will come and see it.
Right.
Ian, is it a case with you that you'll wait until it comes out and you'll just decide on the night? Are you going to go and see it? Or do you think that when you see who's cast, what will be the defining factor? Will you go and see this whatever?
No, I mean, I'll wait and see who's cast, and when we get some information about what is the story and who's the supporting cast as well.
No Lawrence Fishburne, please.
I thought he was great. I loved it. I was thinking about this earlier on. I think I'd cast Nathan Fillion as Perry White if I was casting that part.
So how do they run newspapers these days, though? That's the thing, isn't it? It must be completely different the way they run it.
Peter Parker doesn't work for a newspaper anymore.
No, it'll be like a Daily Wire.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Be like what they did in the latest Spider-Man movie, isn't it? Because
Peter Parker was
the
online thing.
It was online, wasn't he?
Rather than the newspaper. Check out the comic, All-Star Superman, which is what it's based on. Because the reason it's called All-Star Superman, it's all the greatest hits of the classic 1950s Superman retold in a very modern way, like with a very kinetic modern way, which is just really, really works, right? But so it's got that innocence, and it's got that hope, and
all the cheesiness. Even Crypto is. In fact, this was the book that brought Crypto back in from the cold, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I remember the original Superman cartoon series, not the Fleischer one. That's great in itself, but the one that used to be with where they used to go back as when he was a boy and when he was Superboy and all that sort of stuff. That's the stuff that I grew up on, and the Super Friends and that Superman where everything was right. He protected everybody, and I kind of want that back. I don't want this, inner turmoil or all this crap, I just want someone that, we can look up to, and
that's why it's reassuring that they're looking. What his
role is, and
that's why it's reassuring that they're looking at that. So we've got the Superman film there, which obviously it's as I say, that will make or break this. And it's good that they're bringing it out first, but they're going right from that, and we don't know which order these are coming out in. But you talk about the purity of heroism there. The next thing that was announced was a movie of The Authority. Rabbi, tell me about The Authority, because I love Brian Hitch, and was it Mark Miller who created The Authority?
Brian Hitch and Warren Ellis, wasn't it?
Warren Ellis, of course, because it was originally Stormwatch, wasn't it? And Stormwatch were kind of like the Justice League, and they were disbanded, and the Authority sprang out as a sort of rebellious version.
90s, like the most cool 90s comic you can really think of. Was it Jenny Spark as the main character? Who was like, we had this Union Jack, was like 100 years old. They had this one episode where they did a flashback to the 1930s, and there's these beautiful Art Deco like rocket ships from Flash Gordon, and they're just so beautifully I got the ultimate version of it, so yeah, I got blown up. It's so gorgeous. It's so absolutely gorgeous. It's fun. It's silly. It's exciting. It's irreverent.
I always wanted to read it. I was having babies at the time when this came out, so I just missed it. I got back into comics for the Ultimates, the next thing that Brian Hitch did.
Right.
But this look different.
This is like a punk rock version of the Ultimates.
Was this a Wildstorm comic? Was it?
Yeah,
Yes.
originally.
Okay,
Before
that
it became
explains it.
Wildstorm.
So Wildstorm became an imprint of DC about 15 years ago. Something
Yeah, when
like
Jim
that.
Lee sold it.
So this
sold
is going to
out.
be a film too, Matt. It's very obscure. I mean, certainly nobody outside of geeks will have heard of this. Certainly won't have heard of Wildstorm, or been aware of any of that. Gunn and Safran have said that the Authority characters, the Wildstorm characters, will be part of this DC universe. And I suppose when you've got characters created by Warren Ellis, who's a multiversity and all those kind of things that he did. And
I have
Brian
a theory
Hitch,
that they
visionary artist.
Sorry, Dan. I have a theory that they were wanting something like The Watchmen, and because they couldn't do The Watchmen again, I reckon they wanted to do something similar.
Or is it that they want, because I've read a little bit about this, is it that they want something that's like The Boys? Because this does sound to me very similar to The Boys.
Yeah, it does have an extreme there are little things to like an alternate universe. So there's a lot of characters that you could put into the modern setting. Yeah, very much so.
Gunn said it isn't just a story about heroes and villains, and not every movie and TV show is going to be about a good guy versus a bad guy. There are people that are very questionable, like the Authority, who basically believe that you can't fix the world in an easy manner, and so they take things into their own hands. I think that sounds evocative. It's a brave choice. I feel this is a brave choice, Chris, for DC. Marking out their new version of this universe, to go for something not just obscure, but to go for something that could switch some people off. And obviously this will not be aimed at the sort of the 12, 13-year-olds. This will be pitched at adults, one would think.
Well, that's I would think that's largely what DC is known for. I'm not that familiar with this myself, but I think the one thing I should say, even going back to Superman and with what comes after, but especially with the casting, Gunn has to hit it out of the park right away with Superman in terms of story, in terms of casting. The film and what follows needs to be an absolute masterpiece. I think the other cause of concern I have with this whole relaunch of DC in 2025 is the question that I've already brought up is whether or not this is actually a bit too late. Because if you look at it, the current comic book craze, or whatever you want to call it, started in 2000 with the first X-Men movie. So we're now 23 years into it. So the big question is there still going to be an appetite for these, or are people getting burned out on comic book movies, which I think to a certain extent they are? Like Marvel's ruined itself, and DC has been a disaster. I think. Do
you think though? But Chris, in going for projects like The Authority, could they be swerving that, leaning into the appeal of stuff like The Boys?
Well, that's kind of where I was going with this.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Oh, no worries, Dan. We all friends here, and I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm lost. No, but I think Gunn, if there's any way this is going to succeed, he has to do something completely different. He has to give us movies, characters, plot lines, things that we haven't seen before. Because right now with comic book movies, across both of them, there is a sameness. We're seeing largely the same story told over and over again, with different variations depending on the characters. I think if this is going to succeed, I think he really has to reinvent the comic book genre. And I think the MCU, I think, is pretty much beyond repair at this point because they've ruined it. The good thing about DC is that it has been so disjointed on film, and it's been all over the place with different strands. And I guess he's still doing Elseworlds, or that's what everything else.
Well, what I've seen recently, and one of the reasons I think why the comic book industry is failing is because they cannot. People like Warren Ellis have moved on. They won't write for the big two anymore. They're off doing stuff on Substack, or they've got their own labels. They're making their own books. They're doing their own thing and telling their own stories their way. To me, are they going to involve Warren Ellis in the screenwriting of this? I would think they would have to, but would he be keen to return to it? What sort of window are they looking at here? Because I think they want to release 2 movies. They want to have 2 movies and 2 TV shows drop in a calendar year. So they're not trying to saturate the market here. This is going to come out over a period of, I think they said 4 years. This will be complete by 2027, I think is the date we've got.
See, there's this very similar idea that DC actually had called the Planetary.
Yeah,
which I would love
Warren Ellis as well. That was Warren Ellis as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And like, yeah, I think that would have been a better pick. But
Clobby is not feeling this at all. The Authority was okay for what it is, but it's so not what Gunn should be doing as a film. And it's
I think it's because the 2 main characters are gay. All right, I'm just saying it.
Well, but aren't they? They're really well loved characters. It's Midnighter, isn't it? And
yeah,
they're really well liked characters though. Fans love them.
Yeah,
I've never. I
was never a fan of this sort of. Yeah, I sort of got out of Image Comics when. After a while, after the first couple of years, because they became very.
This was what, dude. This is the future. You are gonna get things with gay people in it. It's in everything. It's just that
I know, but that's the reason. I'm just saying that's the reason why they picked it.
Probably.
That's the exact reason why they picked it.
Or did they pick it, Matt, because The Boys has been successful and this is the nearest thing that they've got? The Boys has done that on TV. They can do this in the movies and potentially.
I haven't watched The Boys. Yeah, it's just another thing that I probably wouldn't watch. I don't
know. I think that's a trifle cynical.
Let's be honest. I don't think it hurt having the main characters having 2 main characters gay.
I'd forgotten about it.
I don't think it hurt at all. I don't think it was just because of that, but they're like, well, okay, best of all worlds then. Win, win, win.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm heartened to see another Superman family movie on the way, but this is not what I was expecting. So we've got Supergirl, the Woman of Tomorrow. That's also been announced. I was really surprised by this because of obviously this character's been around for a really, really long time, Supergirl. But the run that they're literally adapting only came out in 2021. It was a maxi series that was written by Tom King, who is quite a divisive writer, I believe. But even his biggest detractors do say that Woman of Tomorrow is the best thing that he's ever written. And it's quite a cosmic saga, isn't it? It sounds sort of Mandalorian-esque. Have you read this one, Rabbi?
No, I haven't. But it's
who did the art for that, Dan? Sorry, who did the art for that?
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Okay.
I hope it's like I haven't read it. I don't have much hope for Tom King. I hope it's like an elevator pitch, but my guess is this: politically, adapting a Tom King book, I think, was a prerequisite of taking the job. Right?
He's a member of. He's in the writers' room as well, isn't he, Rabbi? Have you noticed that there's about 5 people that are in the not writers' room as such, but are in this sort of hub that they've got of talent who are kind of looking at the whole slate.
I wouldn't call them talent. Jeez.
Yeah, I know. I think he knows his crap. I just think he knows he had to. Look. He's very like connected. It's like Sam that Amner in Marvel. They've connected politically. You know, there's like
I've never read anything by Tom King, but people who are still reading modern comics, who're still happy to pay money for the stuff, say that Tom King is a good ideas man, but that his stories never really deliver, and that this is the one that did, mostly because I think it was like a maxi series. They gave him 10 issues, And I mean, I've heard that apparently this is a good series, and the reason why it was good is because he ripped so much of it off from other things. It's quite Mandalorian-esque, and people liken it to the film True Grit, the thing with, well, John Wayne was in the original, wasn't he? And then the Coen brothers remade that. It was a book originally.
I hate the title. I hate the premise. It all just sounds
very different
horrific.
Supergirl to the one that we grew up with Helen Slater and with the recent TV shows.
To sell your stall, to say Superman had a white privilege upbringing, and poor old Supergirl was brought up on a lump of rock, saw everybody killed, so she's going to be much more bitter and
Where are her
she's
breasts?
She's going to be
Exactly.
snarky, horrible woke woman, isn't she?
That's down to the artist, isn't it? I mean, we can't.
Yeah, but that's
drawn
not
differently.
even. Yeah, but
It's not even close.
She hasn't even matured yet, or blossomed,
Again,
or whatever you call it.
I've not read this. If the character's 14 in this story,
That does not look 14. I'm sorry,
That
she does
looks like
not look
I
14.
don't know, mate. I feel that we could be picking.
Well, they're rumoured that they're going to cast the Supergirl that they cast in Flashpoint.
It's the way all the way
girl.
through it.
So she'd be what, 20 odd?
The one with the dark hair.
That's the rumour. Yeah,
I'd be amazed if that happens.
the
Does sound
boyish
bad,
one.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can't see them doing that. That's so. I think it's fine for being in the Flash movie, the alternative, because that version of Supergirl in the Flash film, she's the one from the game, isn't she? The what's it called? The platform game. I don't know. I've never played it, so I don't know. But she's from some sort of game anyway.
Yeah, but I just the way they're teeing up the character and her characteristics, that she's damaged, she's angry at the world, she's had this
James Gunn's described this version of Supergirl as much more hardcore, whatever that means.
Yeah.
I haven't necessarily. I don't know. Unless they've given more interviews that I haven't heard or read, I haven't heard them say that she's going to be loaded up with angst. But I've seen them pitch how different her story is to Superman's, and I think that's quite a good thing.
But he said, James Gunn used the words that she watched all the people around her slaughtered in horrific ways,
in terrible ways. Yeah.
And all this she's a broken.
This is obviously
person,
not the one that they introduced in the 80s, where she was she could morph
Matrix.
into a character. Yeah,
No, this is the original. This is Kara
yeah, no,
Zor-El.
that's fine. That's fine.
Again, like all these things, I hope she's written really well and she's cast really well. But the whole pitch, and knowing it's Tom King, she's a typical current day woke woman.
This is
I hope
the one
I'm wrong.
that,
I hope I'm wrong.
like I say, not having read I'm tempted to read this now because as I say, the people I know who can't stand Tom King do say that one is one to read. But I do love the character of Supergirl. Helen Slater's film in particular. I was surprised to see a Superman and Supergirl film on the slate. But again, it's part of the brand. What do you feel about that, Ian? A Supergirl movie so soon after that TV show wraps up? Do you think that the world's ready?
I don't think it's called for personally. I think Superman and Batman they should concentrate on first and foremost, get those two out properly, do it well, and then everything else will fall after that. I think all of this nonsense, the other stuff they're talking about, and was it the one you just mentioned just now? Nobody knows who they are. Nobody cares who they are.
Isn't that a good thing though? Nobody knew who Guardians
No,
of the
it's
Galaxy
not.
was
It's
10
not.
years
It's,
ago.
no. You're talking about DC here. It's not. Remember, Marvel came from a point where it was original and it started, and it created the trend. Right, so you have to remember Marvel did that. Now we know what the trend is. Now we know what heroes are. And now we know that there's normies and there's super fans. Super fans more so go to.
We
these
also
films.
know
You
that
need
brand
to- hold on,
recognition.
stop, can I just finish?
No. Brand recognition does. Once you put certain pegs in the soil, that brand recognition can bring people, can't it? Based on the brand.
Well, that's why they have to do Superman and Batman good. They have to do that. Those two are the ones.
I mean, you didn't get Guardians in
aren't
phase
they?
one, did you? I think
No,
that's
you
the point you're trying to
didn't.
make, isn't it?
Yeah, so they're bringing all this other stuff in, and it's like, well, all I really want to see is a good Superman movie and a good
Yeah.
Batman movie, which we haven't had in years, I think. So
You
if
see,
they get those two right,
Yeah,
it'll be fine.
I think if they came out with a slate that was like, boom, a Flash movie, a Green Arrow movie, a Wonder Woman movie, people would go, I've seen all that before.
It's puzzling, Dan, how they don't say Green Lantern, how they don't say Supergirl, how they don't say Superman. It's like there's got all this other. I know it's based on a comic and stuff like that, but still, for everyone out there, why can't they just say Superman, Batman, Supergirl? Supergirl sounding very much like something I don't want to watch. You know, everything that Andy said just now. All the flags are coming up, and the only reason why the flags come up is because of what's happened in the past and what they've been doing. So, you know, I'm just kind of, whatever about DC's new lineup. So that's just me though, right?
See, I don't know. I've not read that Supergirl series, and that's the one I'm quite 50-50 about, thinking, I might not like it. But I kind of like that they're adapting stuff, Rabbi, that has not been on my radar, that looks like something a little different.
I like they're doing things that different. I mean, I don't know about this. I read the log line, and it's Supergirl without purpose and meaning. So she goes and accompanies this girl who's had a planet destroyed on a mission of revenge, because otherwise she'll do it on her own or something like that. I don't know. This is the weakest part of the announcement, right? His work has been strong enough for me to give him the benefit of the doubt to at least look and see what it's going to be. It could be awful. It could be good. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think I do agree that I think the Batman movie is far more important.
I mean, if Supergirl starts out that film as broken and cynical and almost suffering from PTSD, and at the end of the film she's still exactly the same, then it's utterly pointless. But if she travels some sort of arc as a result of the plot of this, then I think it'd be worthwhile. Let's look at the Batman movie. So they're initially they're calling this The Brave and the Bold. I personally would be surprised. I love the Brave. I love The Brave and the Bold. The comic book. I love the brand.
What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at Robin.
That's yeah.
You got Peter Dinklage to play him, all right?
He is in this instance, quite literally. That's Damian Wayne. That's Bruce Wayne's son. This Robin, who again, a much loved character who's been around for about 15 years now. Damian Wayne. So Brave and the Bold,
now Daddy Batman.
I'd be surprised if this makes it to the cinema without the words Batman in the title. Seems strange to me, but generally speaking, again, they're talking about this being connected again to Grant Morrison's take on the character, to Batman and Son from again around 15 years ago.
Batman and Son.
They were great comics. Did you read them, Matt?
No. Look, I mean, to me, like I said, it's
7 years.
Having Batman as a dad is just stupid. That was the whole point of Robin in the first place, was that he was a surrogate father, and it was just, to make him an actual father. It's just
why would you make your son Robin if you're Batman? Why would you want to put your son in danger?
Especially with the track record of the Robins, they didn't exactly end up that well, did they? So.
Yeah.
Well, that is part of the plot. In this all revolves around the League of Assassins, Ra's al Ghul and Ra's al Ghul's daughter, who is the one who the Bruce Wayne has that relationship with. That's where Damian Wayne comes from. So he rescues. Damian Wayne is initially part of the League of Assassins. They have him and they're training him. So it's a storyline that played out over, as I say, 6 or 7 years, with Grant Morrison writing that run. And for a time, Bruce Wayne was missing, presumed dead, and Dick Grayson was Batman. So I did wonder, could they even be adapting the stuff where Dick Grayson was Batman in this, looking after Damian? I don't know, but
now that I'd watch. That I would watch.
They haven't said yet. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But again, adapting things that worked on the page, that sold bucket loads, and that people, again, seminal books of the last great decade in comics, and a version of the character that has never been seen on screen before.
Yeah, I mean,
Everybody's silent.
no, well, I mean, this whole thing with the whole Daddy Batman just really gets me. But I mean,
But it's tried.
To me-
That being said, but it is tried and tested on the page, isn't it? They're, you know, we say, why don't they adapt the good stuff? They're adapting stuff that's sold well, characters that have held with the comics buying public. If
oh
they can
yeah, oh look, it's a modern thing,
stuff
and
well.
I'm not. I mean,
I don't know.
maybe it has sold well and that, but I mean, it's not my Batman.
I think most
Dude, it's
people
good.
don't
I
know
read
about the other
it.
Robins,
It's
though, do
good.
they?
These are Rabbi. Thank you. These
All
are
right.
fantastic. It's not just me. These are great books, aren't they? I read this whole run.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
all
this
right
is
with this. You know, at the end of the day, right, we're not in charge of DC. It's these people that are in charge, and they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. So all it boils down to is whether we would like the product. That's all it boils down to. You know, I'm willing to give it a
Absolutely.
shot. You know, let's have a look, right? So
I think it's great they're doing a Batman and a Robin. We haven't seen a real Batman and Robin ever on screen. I hope they do it comic.
yes, we have.
Like that's what I like about the Ben Affleck. I like that they did, swinging on from the buildings and stuff. Having Batarang, all that stuff. I want it to be a comic, and I think that's what they're leaning into. And I like the way they're doing Robin without it being cheesy, by doing it like it's a kid he didn't know about, he fathered, and all of a sudden he's a psychopathic assassin, and he feels some need to like take control of him and help his life by making him a Robin. So they got this like real tension going on. Like this kid is a psychopathic assassin that Batman's just found out he fathered unwillingly. I think it's like some unwilling clone of him or something. I can't remember. Right. And so now he's like, well, I can't just let this psychopathic assassin run around. I've got to train him for the good. Right. So it's able to do Robin without being cheesy. And Batman, you get to see the nobility of Batman as well as him being the Dark Knight, which I think works as well. And there's lots of like kick-ass, fantastic action, great villains. This is one with Professor Pig in it, I think, which was like really disturbing.
Lots of new ideas, weren't there?
Yeah, I think this is going to be great. I there's no indication to say this is going to suck yet, right? I have high hopes for this. It depends who they have attached to it. It depends who the Batman is. Depends on the production design. Get away from that Matt Reeves piece of shit. Oh God, I hate it so much.
I was thinking maybe I'm so up for this because I hated that Matt Reeves film so much. The same. Maybe I'm sort of reaching out to this, hoping.
I thought you enjoyed
it.
I couldn't
They're
stand
getting a
it.
sequel to it, aren't they? So they must have. I mean, it brought in a lot of money, but it's still. But what's this thing about? They were saying, Dan. He was saying that this is elsewhere. Elseworlds.
Elseworlds.
Yeah. What's that? Because I don't know any. What is that?
Elseworlds is like an alternate universe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a bit like the multiverse kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's DC's multiverse, basically.
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, that wasn't Elseworlds. Elseworlds was Gotham by Gaslight. It was like a 19th century Batman. That was
Jack
great.
the Ripper.
There was Red Sun. Yeah, exactly. There was Red Sun where Superman's capital lands in Russia instead of Kansas. And that's awesome, right? Mark Miller. There's a lot they could do. But basically they're saying these pieces of shit that we've had commissioned or these things that are not within our scope, right? They're outside the story. What's he saying, Retro Doc?
He says if they're using Damien, that implies that this Batman has been around for a few years and has already met Ra's al Ghul and Talia. So how many Robins has he been through then in this version? So potentially we could have a Teen Titans film. Yeah, so we've got Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Tim Drake. And if you count spoiler, Stephanie Brown when she was Robin for a little while, then there's lots of potential for.
When Marvel started up, right? I do believe that they picked Iron Man because he was free, copyright wise. So they picked Iron Man and they picked the Hulk to do the first.
They still owned him.
Yeah. But that's the
not
thing.
The Hulk.
They didn't have this plan to go forward. The plan got created once Iron Man was successful, and then they moved on. And they had the idea of having the films connected, but they didn't have a plan going forward. As I said, Marvel was the first to do all this stuff. Now we know that format. Now we know that there's a universe out there called Marvel. DC wants to try and copy that. But I say, why don't they just concentrate on the first two movies first, like they did with Marvel, Iron Man and the Hulk and see where it goes, and then decide whether they want to make an elsewhere this and a
do a 2-3 year,
whatever and that. Yes,
plan, and not do a 10-year. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
You
But
don't know what's going to take off. You can course correct as you go.
yeah, exactly. You know?
I think with Matt Reeves, it's simply the fact that I suppose as much as I hate it, that film did do well,
Yeah,
and he's very well respected, and it's.
What's that?
Everybody's contracted. Okay, they're all contracted. Like if they don't want this, they're all contracted. This is a pain in the ass for him, right? The Joker movie, it's contracted. It's nothing to do with him. It's
Also,
Lady Gaga as
right?
Harley Quinn. Yeah, that'll work.
Do you think he should have made any kind of announcement? He should just kept it quiet, until everything was solidified or whatever, and then this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, just do it on Batman film.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think he helped the stock price. I think he's helped the stock price by giving a uniform vision of the future, which is
I know, but it's a terrible vision. It's a terrible vision.
Do you really think this is that bad? I mean, come
yes,
on.
I do. I do.
What we weren't going to get
do
terrible.
on this show,
Abrams was terrible.
We can hear ya.
Yeah.
On this show, I'll just stick to the movies because I'm aware that we're hitting up to 2.5 hours now. So, I mean, so far, we've got 3 movies. The final film is Swamp Thing, which I was very surprised to see.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Now,
If this is like an 18, I'd be up for that.
And looks, that's a really good painting, isn't it?
This is Bernie Wright. This is a Bernie Wrightson one, I believe. So it's the seminal Swamp Thing artist, I would say, Rabbi.
I think they lean more into like horror, like a horror film type.
Well,
thing. I'd definitely go for that.
So the quote we've got from James Gunn is, "This is a much more horrific film, but we'll still have Swamp Thing interacting with other characters in the same way that in the coherent universe. So the same way that Rocket Raccoon was next to Thor in a big battle, in the mashups and things like that. So the idea is it's still part of the DC universe, but this is much more horrific." He uses the word horrific. This is the most extreme example of the conviction to this DCU. A Swamp Thing will investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing and is directly inspired, looking to the 1980s run by Alan Moore, the saga of the Swamp Thing, which everybody I read that everybody's got to read that. This is the one to go to. Now, a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, DC Universe / HBO Max, they made a Swamp Thing TV show that was so expensive that they couldn't afford to make any more of it. A tax thing meant that it sort of got cancelled by default, but it was fantastic. If they can go back to that vision of it, do that on the big screen, then I'm so down for this. I know Swamp Thing's been done before. There's been a TV show. There's been 2 movies, and there was the HBO Max version.
It looked good. The HBO Max version looked good, but I found it, and I wanted to like it, but I just found like it really kind of weak in a lot of ways. It was so nearly good.
Version.
It so nearly was great, but then it kept veering around. They're saying James Manigold's in talks with this, so is he the one doing the indie movie?
Yeah, that's right. But he also made Logan, didn't he? And Logan had that kind of dour.
Indy 5. Indy 5. If it looks like that, I'll watch it. Look, that's a great painting, isn't it? That looks scary, man. That really looks
Swamp
scary.
Thing. Every time I think of Swamp Thing,
Oh, it's just beautiful. And the work he put into that. Yeah, Bernie Wrightson.
Is it Wes Craven that did the other one, or?
Yeah, he did the original.
Yeah.
He did the original Swamp Thing movie with Adrian Barber was in it.
Barbo, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Hopefully
it doesn't go that way.
My era was
wasn't very good.
It was like the John Torteben, Steve Bissett era. That was good. But
made a sequel.
I think they should go for something like the Simon Bisley version.
I think the Swamp Thing's gonna be like the Incredible Hulk. I mean, people really don't know the Swamp Thing. They do and they don't, if you know what I mean. Some people
I think people getting confused with Man Thing. I'm just saying. I think there's always been that confusion.
I don't think anyone knows what Man Thing is. I think a lot more people.
No, but I think there is
at least know the expression.
I know
Swamp
what Man Thing is.
But if you saw the two side by side, you would think they were virtually the same character.
Yeah,
the same writers. Yeah. I was surprised to see. I was really surprised to see Swamp Thing here, mainly because it's been so soon since the HBO Max show. But again, I'm pleased to see it. It means that they're setting another peg in to the horror side of the DC universe. It could lead, because they were going to make a Justice League Dark film just a few short years ago, and I'd have been very the cartoon, the animated movies that were great. The comic was good too.
2 of those,
and I thought that was promising. The people who were involved in it. But if something's going to survive from that, I think Swamp Thing is probably the best prospect to go with, to set up the horror corner of the DC universe. And then you can bring in John Constantine and various other characters again.
Yeah. Wait a minute,
and really flesh it out.
That means Constantine 2 must be cancelled.
I'd say so.
Maybe, yeah.
They never brought it up.
If it was ever really a possibility in the first place.
They said it was a thing.
I did like the guy who played him though on TV. I thought he was spot on.
Yeah, he was good. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Really
that in a real horror version of it would have been much better.
Yeah.
Like an adult version of it.
So I'm getting the impression that the Swamp Thing suggestion has gone down a little better than the other ones.
I think it's going to do Hulk business. When Incredible Hulk was released, it's people know it, but they don't. So I think it's not going to do very well, but it's going to do okay.
He was always subtle Swamp Thing. He was never like the Incredible Hulk, where he just just went and shit.
I think it's like they go more like the horror route and bring like horror fans in, not necessarily DC fans. It could do quite well. A bit like how Blade crossed over. Like you didn't have to be a novel to enjoy Blade. I think if they pitch it like that, it could actually do really, really well.
But Blade was really cool. The way they did Blade with Wesley Snipes was so cool that it just made it better than the comics, in my opinion.
So I found this the other day. It almost went in the skip. Almost. Yeah, seriously. And this is a Bernie Wrights and number 10.
Classic.
And I was like, and people were like, oh, because we did a big clean out last weekend, and they found a whole box of comics. I found Bolt of Evil and all this from Marvel Comics, because I've got older siblings, you see, so they had all these back from the early 70s. So that almost ended up in the skip.
Hold on to them, mate.
Yeah,
we're gonna leave it there with the DC plan, not only because I think Ian's brain's about to melt. You're really not feeling this at all, are you?
No.
I'm really excited by this. Spoilers. I think this is a good slate of stuff to come out with, an interesting list of projects for the big and small screen. I don't know what other people are saying. I know we live in a cynical age. I know people feel burnt, but and like I say, I'm not James Gunn's biggest fan, but so far I really like what I see. I'm more surprised, I think, by the choice for the Supergirl film. That's the one that's the unknown quantity for me. But generally speaking, it depends on which they bring out in what order. I would imagine the order would probably be quite similar to how we've been through them. But who's to say? Who's to say? We'll come back and look at the TV shows perhaps another time, because I'm even more interested in them. But a couple of those are really quite obscure, and that's what I find so exciting. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight here on the panel. I know the rabbi's flagging. It must be really late for you. Have you got anything plugged? You're doing it. You're live streaming tomorrow, aren't you, mate? Do you want to tell us about that?
He's falling asleep.
I guess I'm going to be doing about going deep dive in the season 14 of Doctor Who. Everything we know that's coming up. We got the Rusty Davies column to read. We got the thing on a new executive producer, and the script header. There's a lot of stuff to go over. So and all any new news that goes along. Yeah, we'll be doing that first. First, we'll be taking the piss and looking at any nudie pictures that can possibly get away with.
Sounds like you.
Rely on me.
In a normal way of artistic Polaroids, that sort of thing.
Excellent. I hope to catch up with you in the week at some point. Chris, what are you up to, mate? Are you streaming? I know you did a stream on the TARDIS Zone last night, didn't you?
Still just doing these two streams. I can't even talk streams a week. So this one on Saturday's TARDIS Zone on Friday, and my puppy's going nuts, so I'm gonna have to run away pretty soon. I may be running away during the end credits again, but it was great seeing y'all, and we'll have fun.
Same to you.
Great see you, Chris.
We'll
see you next time. And Andy, it's nearly time for the roundup, is it not?
It is indeed. There will be a weekly roundup tomorrow. always drops around sort of around lunchtime, early afternoon, because that seems to be where most people pick it up on Twitter. So yeah, that'll be dropping, and obviously go check out some back issues as we're talking about them on Atomic Blonde LDN, and the odd comment about some of this stuff on Twitter. And you can see my handle there.
Ian, we can't possibly wrap this up without another plug for this, can we? Rebecca Gold, the prologue to Rebecca Gold 2. That dropped yesterday. We're into the thousands of views already. You must be delighted. I'm sure that it's going to get a lot higher. And people, there does seem to be a lot of chat, a lot of positive feedback, and people really hungry for more.
Yeah, there was one German fella that said this was a waste of my time. It was in German. One of the quotes down the bottom. But I'm so happy. I have to give a shout out. I have to give a shout out to the Drinker and to a movie cynic and to in fact Brown as well as Little Platoon, because they helped. They actually went out there and told people about it, and it's really nice of them to do that for me, so thanks, fellas. But also I have to keep reminding people, this isn't season 2, this is just the prologue to season 2. We're shooting season 2, and hopefully at the end of this year we'll have season 2 ready for you, but it's just the prologue that explains it explains why
my stream tomorrow night. I think on my stream tomorrow night I'll do a live viewing of it, so we can all watch it together.
Yeah, just don't strike him off, all right? I was going to do it too, and I thought, oh no, he'll strike me.
Oh no, I like a bit.
That's a really good. That's a really good idea.
Maybe we should all do it, Dan.
Yeah, multiple. Yeah,
he can do an audio commentary.
We'll certainly do some. We will certainly be covering this on this channel. I would imagine other people will pick it up as well. But no, I'm delighted for you, Ian, and we'll make sure all the information is in the description of the video so people know where to find it. But it's pretty easy. Just type Rebecca Gold into the search field on YouTube, and no mistake.
There's also a GoFundMe as well if you want to stick some money in there. But actually, people have given me money. It's not a lot, but it's a start anyway. So it's quite nice that people have actually given me money to help the cause. So thanks very much, and like and subscribe, especially this channel. Like, subscribe as well. Yeah.
Keep watching Ian on Twitter for more updates of that as well, and subscribe to the Rebecca Gold channel if you haven't already. Please subscribe to this channel too while you're at it. Lots and lots of people, twice as many people watch this stuff than subscribe. So please, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the cloister bell to get the notifications about whatever's coming next: podcasts, live streams, round tables, geek outs, previews and deep dives, all that stuff here on the Spacebook channel. More Spacebook Live again next week. We'll look at the TV shows eventually sometime. I'm just as excited about those. Let us know what you think of it all in the comment section, as well as the other stuff we're talking about. Russell T Davies. Do you applaud what the big man's done and what he said? Is it about time? Or do you think he's all talk and you'll wait and see what he ultimately delivers there? And what about The Last of Us? What do you think of episode 3? Are you there? Has this convinced you now, 3 weeks in? Are you there for the full 9? And let us know what you think about the whole Bill and Frank thing. And what else did we talk about? Yeah, I can't remember. Lots and lots of good stuff. I'll go back and watch and remind myself.
Scream and Shout Factory.
Matt, what are you... give us a plug, mate. What are you up to?
Oh, me?
Yeah, I don't care what you're plugging.
This week
something.
I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy, which is highly controversial at the moment. So I've bought the deluxe edition. Apparently, it's upsetting a lot of people. I don't know what sort of people, but
it's upsetting a
lot of people.
You've been cancelled, Matt. You've been cancelled.
Yeah, I've been cancelled several times before then anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Cancel the naughty boy. Yeah, well, that's it for this time, I think. Let us know what you think in the comment section. We'll see you again in a few days' time for more of this sort of nonsense. But enjoy the rest of your weekend. And hit the like button, subscribe, and all that jazz. We'll catch you all again soon. Bye-bye.